Yo, greetings and welcome to Vocals and Vibrations. I'm your host, Travis Pratt. Thank you guys for being here on tonight. This is my favorite part of the show, the shout out. This is where you get in the comments. Tell me where you're tuning in from and tell me who you are. All right, y'all, let's kick this off. We do this every week. Get in the comments, tell me who you are and where you're tuning in from. And also somebody let me know if that music is too loud. Ooh. Do-do-do-do. Ba-da-da-da-ba-da. Do-do-do-do-do. All right, guys, where y'all at? The numbers are going up. I don't see nobody in the comments. It's simple. It's simple. Say who you are, say where you're from. That's all I need. What's up, Mr. Cromer? Good to see you. Where you tuning in from? We got Mr. Benny in the house from New Orleans. Good to see you, my brother. Thank you for being here. Caress from Dallas, Texas. Come through. Good to see you. You guys also know that this is where you can share. For those of you guys who know what we do, share the broadcast with people who you think, who know what we do around, who can benefit from what we're doing. Brittany, is that too loud? Is the music too loud? I'm good. It's good. Okay, sweet. Mr. Cromer's rolling in from Columbus, Ohio. Good to see you, my brother. Eric Shelton, what's going on, my brother? He's tuning in from. Can you type in the comments where you're tuning in from, brother? Please. Y'all have to just do what y'all want to do. My sister's in the house on tonight, and she put on here 4 hearts as usual. Thank you so much. Good to see you. LaJoya! What's up, Joy? Good to see you. I'm assuming you're tuning in from Michigan, but I don't know where knowing Joy, you might be in Japan. So tell us where you're tuning in from. Eric Shelton is tuning in from Boston. Good to see you, my brother. What's up, Mr. Colbert? Good to see you, Robert. Tell the people where you're tuning in from. I think I know where you are. But if you can tell us, that would be great. I love you more, LaJoya. Good to see you tuning in from Michigan. Benny, Candy, you see that? Benny said, "No, where is sister from? She didn't follow the rules." Candy, can you please put on here where you're tuning in from? Oh, they telling on people. Mr. Thomas, what's going on, Robert? Birth! One of my students is in the house on the night as well. That's always fun. Birth can sing too, y'all. I'm gonna have to let y'all hear him. Come on, numbers, go on up. Guys, it's a lot of people in here. I can see the numbers. Just literally, you got to tell me where you're tuning in from. Bruce, did I put yours up here? Bruce tuning in from Virginia. I don't know if I put that up there. All right, y'all. As always, y'all know I play that music from my phone. And let me tell you something. This thing will ring. You understand? So let's just make sure we got it turned off. Okay, there we go. Okay, guys, for those of y'all who are just joining us on the restream, this is Vocals and Vibrations. I'm your host, Travis Pratt. Okay, guys, the mission and vision of this show, I created this to create a platform. Originally, we started off as a Masterclass exclusively. You know, I kind of do that sometimes. It depends on who tunes in and who wants to do it. But often I'm highlighting artists and we're sharing their trajectory. If you've read the description, that's pretty much what we do here. For those of you all who are just joining, again, this is the restream. And those of you who know what we do around here, please take this time to like, comment, and share the broadcast. Put their names in the comments, people who you think can benefit from what it is we do here. Let me get a couple of comments back up, and we'll go ahead and get started. We got Mr. Stewart in the house from Michigan. We got Brother Finley in the house. He didn't say where he was from, but I'm sure he's probably from Michigan. He said, "Let me know when you come this way." I got you, brother. I would definitely do that. Okay, guys. As usual, I always start the show off with the kids from my Young Artist program called the Young Icons. Let me play their real quick, and then we'll get started right onto the show. Here we go. So for those of you guys who are watching for the first time, I saw some names who I haven't seen them before. My Young Artist program is a group of kids, and actually I'm getting ready to cast a new season. We'll be airing what we did very soon. The kids are from all over the country, and a very, very talented bunch. And for those of you who watch the show, you guys have seen them all. They're often booked and busy, which is great. I love the fact that they're literally singing all over the place. And I have them on before we end the season because quite a few of them, have gone into college now. And I have one. You guys remember Lariah was on like maybe last month or something like that. And we talked about, we had just got the acceptance letter to where she was going to school. I'm gonna let her come on and tell you. But anyway, so I'm gonna bring on my guest for tonight. Her name is Brittany McNeil. Brittany, you ready? Come on in the room. Yeah.
Hey.
Brittany!
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. It's been a long time. I haven't seen you since we did Jubilee.
That was the pandemic makes everything so weird. But it's been 2019.
Was that what it was? Jubilee was. It was a year before the pandemic. Pandemic, it's been 2 years. So
2019. It's been like, oh my God, it's been like 3 years.
It's been like 3 years. How you been? What's going on? What's new?
Oh man. So what's new? Well, the pandemic for me meant a pivot, right? Like what am I gonna do to stay?
I hear you.
Working, right?
Absolutely.
Like work was gone. Everything flew out of the window. I was working at Washington National Opera when everything shut down. And then all of a sudden, contracts are gone. We were in the middle of a show, had another one coming up, and it was gone. It was out the window. So I've been working in tech, which it's been a journey, but a good one. Like, it's an eye-opener. We'll have to have another show about that. What does it mean to be a musician and have another career, right? Like to still feel legitimate and have another career.
Because you're creative, right?
Right. I got very lucky. I came into tech through another musician who was also an opera singer. And then I was able to use my transferable skills and the things I do well to create opportunities for myself, right? And to really carve out a path. And like transferable skills matter. Like that's we won't go too deep, but I'll say that like the bigger conversation is you can make a life for yourself and not be struggling and not be the stereotypical starving artist, because it didn't matter how much money you were making when that pandemic hit.
Everybody was done.
It was gone, right? It was gone.
Well, so let me jump in real quick and say this to you because my keyboard is right here. And
what you gonna do?
I will put you in B flat because you're preaching. Listen,
I mean, it's a battle, right? Like it's
an
internal battle to be like, I'm gonna work in this field that is not music, and I'm gonna do this thing that is not my art. And does that make me still legit? Absolutely, right?
Absolutely.
So, but we'll let's do it again. Let's have that conversation, because I think if somebody had told me that 10 years ago, how different my world would look and how I was able to take advantage of certain opportunities this year and in the last year, because I am more financially set than I've ever been, right? Like
because you're not waiting for the next gig. I get it.
and because I work in tech, right? And so it is tech, right? You see a new world. You see that people are out here living a life that doesn't mean gig to gig. Or if it does mean gig to gig, it's in a different way. So what that allowed me to do was it opened me up to take other opportunities. I've been dabbling in musical theater a lot. So I did 2 world premieres this past spring at the Kennedy Center, which was just amazing. I got to work with Elizabeth Acevedo. I got to work with, I got to work in musical theater with like legit musical theater folks, right? Like, so
the names.
It's been crazy. And a part of that though is like, just like opera, I mean, theater, it's not what I would call a living wage. Not from where I live. Like you see the city in the background. I live in Baltimore, right? And the Kennedy Center is in DC. And I think, I wouldn't call what people do, even those folks who are on Broadway, it's not a thriving wage. It might, and so I was very lucky to have a team that was like, go,
Oh,
I
that's
was lucky to
wonderful.
have a team where I came late out of a show, running into a work meeting, logging on in costume, like,
I get it.
I'm so sorry, I'm late. Our show went late.
But
And
I'm
to have
here.
a vice president who was like, you look beautiful. Please go do what you love. We'll talk later. That exists. And it's new navigating how to balance all of it, or whatever. But I've been working full time in two
I
different
get
spaces.
it. So Brittany,
Um,
that's interesting you say that. I'm gonna have you come in and talk to my kids, because that's one of the things I preach to them all the time. Like, for me, in between gigs, I'm a church boy at core, and it's like I can play the organ and I can play the piano. So even when I could play for people's lessons, or I mean, if it need to, I can play Ricky Dillard. I can play whatever you need. So that was my, in between things. So I didn't have to do what some other people were doing. But I think it is of paramount importance to have, that skill to sustain you in between, or whatever the case is. I love the
yes.
fact that you said that. I think that's something I would definitely like for you to share,
And what if
with
somebody
my
told
kids.
us that instead of making it feel like
You're failing if you're not.
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, Trav, I forgot to share this. Can I share this on my page right quick? Can I do it while I'm on?
Yeah. You can do it right now. I'll talk while you're doing it. Okay, so guys, while she's doing that, if you guys have any questions, Brittany's an artist, and you just heard her say, that she, the pandemic showed her that she had to put some other skills to work. And that's funny, because the reason I started, let me show you what my wife says. Y'all see that? You look great. Thanks, son. Are you talking to me or Brittany? I think she's talking to me.
Hey, girl, I love her.
But anyway, I started this during the pandemic. That was when I started this thing, and literally it became something different. It was a masterclass, which I still do often. Like, singers come on, it's like young singers, I coach them, or whatever the case is. But I really love, like, for artists to come on and to share what their journey has been, and I think that's a great segue into the next. So Brittany, tell us where you're from and tell us how you got into music.
Oh, okay. So I'm a Carolina girl. I am from North Carolina, born in Fayetteville, raised in Raleigh, and I spent and I went to college in North Carolina at East Carolina University. My first degree is actually in journalism. So I have a degree in communication, in broadcast journalism, but I found I do that I'm sort of used. Like, I write for Classical Singer magazine, and I do some other freelance stuff that's not related to music, but I knew journalism wasn't for me, at least in the way I was pursuing it, when I realized that it required, at least in broadcasting, it required meeting people at their lowest moment and, in a way, exploiting that. Right. And I was not cut out for it. And I'm not going to say it's always bad. Like, we need to know what's happening in the world. But I knew that when folks were dealing with, like, your child was just murdered or your house just burned down, like, I was not the person to go do the on-air interview. I'm gonna cry with you. So I was like, okay, I don't know what this looks like, right? Like, because this path that I was going down, I don't want to do this. I don't want to chase the story. I don't want to be there, like, doing that in people's worst moments.
And that's the thing. That's what gets the ratings, right? That's
what gets the ratings.
That's what the people want to see.
I mean, that's it. And I didn't have the heart for it. But I was an artist. I was always a singer. I grew up in church. I'm a church girl. I grew up in church, all of that. And I decided, when I found myself being the only person in master classes at ECU that wasn't a music major, like, I would look around and everybody else in the room would be a music major, and I was sitting in master classes. I was like, so maybe this is where I should be. And my intention was actually to do musical theater, which is why it's so funny. It's all come full circle. But you could do musical theater through the School of Music or through the School of Theater and Dance. Since I was primarily focused on singing, of course, I chose the School of Music, and you were required to take 3 years of classical voice lessons. And I had an amazing classical voice teacher, the only Black voice teacher on the faculty, Dr. Louise Toppin, who is...
Yes, Lord. I saw her the other day. She's in Ann Arbor now.
Yeah.
I saw her.
She journeyed through UNC Chapel Hill and then made her way out to Michigan. Yep.
Right. That's another conversation.
It is.
Yikes. I didn't.
But it all aligned, right? It all aligned so that actually my last year at ECU was her last year at ECU.
Okay.
And then that's another conversation. But I mean, the lack of diversity, the lack of respect for Black people in that space colored my experience there a lot. But I was very lucky to have her. And so that's kind of how I got into it. I did those 3 semesters of classical voice lessons, and then I was kind of like,
Lucky
maybe, like,
you, though, but look who you studied with, though. Like,
I know. Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Dr. DC, she's often watching the show. If she's here, she hasn't come in. One of the things she always says, Breeden, is there's nothing wasted in God's economy. Nothing. So a lot of times you think you're doing something that doesn't have anything to do with where you're going, and it's actually leading you where you need to be.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
I had no idea you studied journalism. That's impressive to me.
Oh, thank you.
Look, somebody said Dr. Louise Toxin is a rock star. Absolutely.
She sings. The lady sings.
Look, down. That's Dr. Alfonso Cooper. He's always watching the show, but no, he's sings, and also just prolific into just her scholarship as well. Everything.
Yeah, she's brilliant, right? And that resonated with me, right? Because I came in as a singer, but also, like, you know, as a scholar. Like, I love to learn. I love history. But I was also at that time a young parent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was making, and then I was crazy too. Like, I was in a hip hop band. So I would be like gigging on the weekends. I got a literal baby. I'm a classical voice major. I'm a journalism major. Like, I don't know what I was doing. And I don't know where that energy that you have at that time in your life is either. But like, I was doing so much, you know, and she was patient. And a lot of the things that she was teaching me then were not things that I was ready to receive, right? They were not things that I was ready to put into place. A lot of what I was doing in those undergraduate years that I was hearing, especially my first couple years of study, I was hearing things, and I knew, and that's how I knew that I was going to be an opera singer. I knew before she knew. Mm-hmm. I knew because I was hearing things, and I knew what they were supposed to sound like. And I grasped, like, technically how to fix them, but I was physiologically and like just where I wasn't ready to grasp all of it yet. As we got into my, you know, as I got prepared and got ready to graduate and things began to click, it was like, oh, okay, girl, like, what are you trying to do? You were going to be here, but that, like, what's happening? And then even after I left there, like, there are just so many lessons, right, that you carry with you. And so I left my undergraduate experience wanting to work, like full-time work. And Dr. Toppin said, listen, I'm doing this. She was doing a program at Morgan State. It was like a 2-week summer program. And she was like, yeah, come sing, you know, and just see what you know. And I was like, so I went and did the program, and they were like, if you come here, we'll give you a scholarship. And that was June. And in August, I moved.
June before fall?
June before fall.
Oh, wow.
And in August, I moved to Baltimore, like, just like that.
I see.
And now I went to Morgan, I went to Peabody, and now here we are.
Wow. Oh, that's so fascinating. So before we move on to the next topic, I want to know if there's one thing you could say that you know now, or that you wish that you knew then, what would that be?
To be in the moment.
And what does that mean?
I have spent every part of my journey as a musician, and this probably translates to my life in general as well, like being so focused on what the next thing is, what I got to do next, right? So I was leaving undergraduate school, and I was like, okay, like, I got to work. And then that transitioned very quickly for me, but it was like, fine, I'm moving to Baltimore. What does that look like? I got to prepare for that. And I got into that space, and I was like, what do I need to get out of this to get to the next space? And there's a healthy level of that that's necessary, right?
For sure.
But it can't be so much that you're not, like, in the moment. Like, that was my first time being at an HBCU. It was my first time being in Baltimore. And there were just so many things that I was so, like, laser focused on what I needed to do to get where I thought I wanted to go, right? And I finished my time at Morgan. It went by so fast, and I was like, I need some more, like, there's more that I need out of my education. So I went to Peabody. And I mean, as a Black singer there, that's another whole conversation.
Of course.
Honestly, like I spent all that time fighting, really, like fighting for equity, doing DEI work, always, in that kind of stuff. And that was, it was a struggle. It was hard. Like as Black artists, we spent more time doing that than we did trying
Actually,
to sing
perfecting what we do.
Exactly. But even in that, like you are so focused on, I need this and I need this so I can go to the next thing, right? It was like it was always just focused on such a big picture that you kind of miss the moment. And I feel like I've had a lot of moments where I was missing the moment. And this stage in my life is really about trying to settle into the moment, and not in the sense that I'm not preparing for what's to come, but so that I'm not missing what is happening
or distracted with anything else. That's brilliant.
Now that was big for me. 2020 for me was about putting down a lot of distractions, right? Because I was the warrior. I was the girl people call when they need help. Can you write this up for us? How do we say this? How do we do this?
What is your opinion on this? I get it.
What are your thoughts on this? Almost like people would call me in almost sometimes like an attack dog. Like, can you join this fight? You know what I'm saying? And it could be something as small as a social media conversation or as big as like going to an administration at a school or an opera company or something. And I was doing all of that work, and I was also being harmed in some of the spaces I was working in, and pushing through and pushing through and pushing through to the point where I was like losing sleep, literally. And my teacher had to be like, okay, I keep a voice teacher, and he had to be like, how is this serving you?
It's funny. We come to a point in our growth, as human beings and also as artists, where we kind of have to be, I hate to use the word selfish, with our time, because if you're spread and dispersed and fighting everybody else's cause, how are you furthering your own agenda? How are you getting to where you need to be if that's what you're spending your time doing? And I get it. And for me, very similar. That's it. That's right. Virgo energy. That's right. We can get it done. I'm having a deja vu moment. I feel like we've had this conversation. Maybe we had a similar conversation before. But no, it's almost like you show up and it's like, Trav, like, come help us with this. I'm like, let's go. And then as I'm thinking, and often it's at a sacrifice to the detriment of myself because I need to practice.
Right. And also, like, you have to kill ego too, right? And you have to say, if I don't do this, somebody else can do it.
Oh, that's right. Somebody else is capable, Brittany.
Yeah. Right. Like, I'm not the only person that's smart. I'm not the only person that's capable. I'm not the only person that's well-spoken. It's okay. And if somebody else doesn't do it, that's also okay. Right. Like, I don't have to do everything. What happens if I don't do it? What happens if I don't step in? Those people are going to be okay. Right. People can function. People can do things on their own, and making sure like that when we're trying to serve, even when people ask us like to serve, right, that we do it from a place of like, okay, I'm going to give what I can give.
The cup is full. You got something to give.
And also, like, I had to learn reciprocity, right? I had to learn that. It was a lesson. I was very, very grown before I had to learn it. And I don't like calling it selfish, right? Because I'm actually, I don't think we are selfish for caring for ourselves. And I know self-care is like a buzzword or whatever, but I actually don't think it's selfish. I don't think it's selfish at all to care for ourselves and to expect reciprocity. And I had to see that sometimes you're out here and you're doing all this stuff that, number one, like folk can do with or without you. Like the sun is going to rise and set every day.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, right?
Whether you go speak on this topic or not.
Your own ego and your own position, but also like knowing that you can serve in a healthy way and you can help folks but you still have to take care of yourself. You got to be focused. Sometimes like those distractions are great for us because it keeps us from having to do self-reflection. We can say, oh, I was so busy with that and I was so busy with that. Why didn't you practice? Why weren't you ready for that audition? Why didn't you do that thing? Right? No, because I was helping them. No, because I had to go and I had to do and I had to call on them. And I got blackballed when people got mad when I said this. But if I'm not doing all that, right, then I don't have anybody else to blame if I'm not working towards my goals and my things. And 2020 was that moment for me when it was like, lay this aside. I was harmed in a way where I was working with folks, and it's so crazy when like you are trying to build something with folks and they need you and they call on you, but they don't treat you well, but they keep calling you back, and they only keep calling you back because you keep coming back. Like,
That's
and
right.
I had to
And you keep delivering too.
That's my fault. Like,
and you keep delivering. Don't leave that out.
You keep delivering.
delivering. Oh, that is so.
And so I said, stop. I was like, Brittany, stop. Like, this has been almost a decade of you going into every space and being the one. And sometimes when you are that one, folks will resent you. And that's why I said, you have to keep checking ego, because if you're going to take those hits, you got to know you're doing it for the right reason.
That's right.
You have to know that you're speaking up for the right reason. If you're going to administration here, if you're calling on the board here, if you're walking into every space trying to do, whether it's DEI work or you're fighting for specific folks or specific issues, you better know, because you better know that you're doing it for the right reasons and not for the applause, not for people to appreciate it, not for the bigger picture. And 2020 was the moment for me where I had to sit back and say, okay, what do you want? Like, here we are in this place. Everybody's been forced to sit still, and we didn't sit still really fast. Like, George Floyd was killed, and that pushed everybody into this like frantic energy of like, we have to fix every single thing, every institution, like everything's got to be fixed. And that started to happen, and that work started to happen. And I was working in the union, and I was working with different organizations, and I was doing all this stuff that wasn't serving me, that was stressing me out. And it just, it got unhealthy for me, like personally. So I had to pull back, and I applied that to every area of my life. Like, I started to look at everything, and I started to really look at how I engaged in all types of situations and relationships. Like, what am I doing here? How have I been caring for people? Have I been cared for, especially as a Black woman? Have I been cared for in the way I have been caring for people? And I don't say that to be like, I'm an angel, I'm perfect, I go out and I do everything for it. It's not that. But I knew that I was going into spaces and into different types of relationships, caring for people in a way that I wasn't being cared for. And I kept excusing it because I was like, it's the right
reciprocity.
thing to do.
No reciprocity.
Exactly. So
let me jump in, Brittany. Let me jump in. I think, and this thing, we're talking, Brittany and I are both artists, but to me, this is universal. This applies to anybody, anywhere.
It's
life stuff. And what I want to jump in and say is, you know, what you just said, what my therapist says to me is, you know, he goes, you know, Travis, that's that people pleasing thing. And like a vulnerable moment for me jumping in and doing that was giving me something. And a lot of times, if my voice wasn't what I wanted it to be, or if I couldn't do what I wanted to do, it made me feel good to go and speak up and be the front person to something. You understand what I'm saying? So it was giving me something, but it was also allowing me to hide and not accept responsibility, because it becomes self-sabotage. And you said something that really resonated with me, and I want the audience to get this. It's almost like, you know, oh, I'm not doing this because I'm so busy doing this. Oh, these people need me to do that. You're sabotaging yourself, brother. You're not that important. Okay, that's number one.
We're not, right? Like, we're not. You're not that important, girl. The people are not gonna die without you.
That's right. The world is not going to end tomorrow.
Right? Exactly. They're gonna get up tomorrow. They're gonna eat their breakfast. They're gonna go on their way. And whether or not you do this thing, and so you have to weigh that, right? Like, it's not to say that we're not important. We're all important. We all have gifts, right? And so these things, being able to pour into people like that, those are gifts, right? Those are things that you're good at. And when people can call on you and people say, you say it in a way that I never could have said it. That resonates with me, because I have folks who I look to in the same way when I'm like, oh, you worded that perfectly, or oh, you opened my eyes to this thing that I didn't see. But you really have to realize that, like, everybody will play a role. And I mean, not to be morbid, but I had to ask myself legit, like, if I died today, would that thing fall apart?
It wouldn't. It would not.
that thing would not fall apart. Am I falling apart for something that would not fall apart without me?
Right. So why do you think we do that? Are we doing that to, what is it? To me, you don't do anything. You've got to be getting something. You're getting a reward from it. Like whether the reward is beneficial to you in the grand scheme of things or not, but it's something, even if it's making you feel good at the time. What is it? Like, why is it that we do that? What do you think?
I do think that like some of us have a heightened sense of justice.
Ooh.
And it's this thing where we want to see things be right? We want to see things be righteous, which people can read as self-righteous. And it's really not that, right? But you want things to be righteous. And you're like, this ain't right. Like, you don't treat people that way. You don't do it that way. But the problem is that you can't be the one to always try to fix it, right? You can't be the one, because it'll read the wrong way. And also, one thing that I learned is that like the same people who need you will also resent you.
Somebody write that in the comments. Dr. Cooper, can you type that? She said the same people who need you will also what?
Resent you.
Listen.
So that's why you got to know how to self-reflect and deal with your own ego. If I walk into this, and particularly if there are consequences, you know what? I want to sidebar a little bit, because I was telling a friend of mine earlier today that I was going to do this with you. And he was like, oh God, does he know? He know what he in for, right? He knows what he in for. What y'all talking about? Like, he knows your voice, right? And I said, let me tell you something. I said, Trav is the only person that I've been in a room with where I had to be the person to be like, okay, hold on. Wait, let's pull that back for a second. Like, hold on. Don't wait, brother. Like, wait, right? And I was like,
she would pull my shirt tail on butt, Travis. Okay. All right.
Which was like, for me, was a big deal, because
for sure.
Anytime I'm in a space and it doesn't happen. I mean, I've never been in a situation like that, but like, it wasn't a bad thing, right? But it was just nice to not be the one. Right. It was nice to know that I had a comrade. It was nice to know that if I was quiet, somebody was going to speak up. And I think we do it in part because we're afraid of what's going to happen if we don't speak, right? We're afraid if I don't say it, is really nobody. But one of the reasons that I did pull back was because I began to resent other people. Because I was like, this is not fair. I got to put my name on the line, my neck on the line, my career on the line for everything, every time. And this was happening in every space, right? When I was in school, even after I graduated, being called back into academic environments, in work environments, at opera companies, working in advocacy groups, working in the union. It was like, okay, you sit back. And you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and nobody says anything. And so you're finally like, okay, all right.
They need me.
But you know what? You still got to check your ego. If I don't speak, if I make space for other voices, what will happen? Sometimes people speak up and sometimes they don't. And I had to learn that very often they don't, but that still does not mean I have to. Not every time.
Let's address this. Dr. Copeland says sometimes it's not about who's right or wrong. More often it's about who has the power and who doesn't. Winning should not be a reasonable or realistic goal. And that's what he meant. Should be. But he says personal and career suicide isn't the goal.
That is it.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow.
That Doxology. Is it. That's a word. And it's actually, it hurts. Like, I think when you're built a certain way, it hurts. You're
for
like,
me, I literally itch. I start to like, my back starts to hurt. When it's wrong, ain't nobody
trying to get out, right? You have, which is why I say like this heightened sense of justice, right? You see everything before people see it. You're ready to run. You know, I wrote something the other day and I was like, I was joking, but I was kind of serious. Like, people often tell me, you should run for office. And I was like, do y'all know how much stuff I would have to delete from my social media if I had to run for office, right? Because I was listening to a podcast about a guy who was running for office, and his team was like, oh, we gotta clean everything. And he was like, yeah, my Facebook has to go, like this has to go, like delete all of that. And I was joking, you know, but I was serious. And it was just that kind of conversation about like being the one that's speaking, or like having something to say, having a voice or whatever. But I mean, when it comes to actual professional situations, when it comes to actual, not always professional, right? Just any situation that you're in where like there's a voice that needs to be heard, there's work that needs to be done. The goal really is to reach the goal, right? The goal is to really find out what is the most expedient way. How can we reasonably accomplish these things? When I see folks start to compromise in a way that doesn't feel just, that my heart just starts to boom, boom. And I'm like, you got to say something. This is not right. You got to say something. And I just had to learn to temper that, because you will burn yourself out. You will drive yourself crazy. And then on top of it, when you've put yourself out there in that way and folks don't respond the way you think they should. And I'm not talking about like gratitude, like, you know, we worship you. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just saying like understanding the sacrifice, understanding what it takes to always be the one. People don't get it because they're not doing it.
That's right.
So then you are upset because people don't get it. Mm-hmm. And so I had to ask myself,
and that's taxing.
What situations am I being a hero, so to speak, in where nobody asked me to be a hero?
That's good. That's good.
Am I being a hero or am I being a martyr?
Wow. I love your self-introspection and your self-reflection, Brittany. And that's something I try my hardest to do. It's like I want to know why I do what I do. Like, why am I moved to do this? Why do I feel like I have to? And if I feel this way afterwards or before, I'm learning not to analyze those feelings and make an informed decision about whether or not I want to move or even say anything at this point.
Yes.
Because you got to examine the motive.
And more often than not, so I'm going to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn to love that part of me and not let anybody make me feel bad about that part of me. Why? Because I've seen the fruits of my labor. I have seen the fruits of my labor in so many spaces that you know, spaces that I could name. I could name companies. I can name schools. I can name spaces where I have seen my work turn into real actionable
legit
things that I may or may not have gotten any credit for. Right? That's fine. That's cool. So I had to look at myself and say, no, what you have to offer is valuable. You just don't always have to offer it. Wow. Figure out when it's healthy for you to do
Brittany,
so.
That is good.
When it's healthy for everybody else for you to do so. And, you know, it's that kind. It's a work in progress, right? But the biggest thing for me has been trying to, and I say trying because it's a work in progress, trying not to walk into spaces where I know I don't need to be, where I already know what's going to happen, and I talk myself into it, right? And I say, no, I can help. I can deal with that. And this is not always like, I'm not even always talking about advocacy work, right? It could be like joining a group. It could be, you know, taking a certain gig. It could be all of these different, it could be anything, right? It doesn't even have to be music related, where you take a job or you know, start a project with somebody, or somebody asks you to come in to do something and you're like, and you do it anyway. And you say, you see the red flags, which it's so hard to talk these days because like everything has become like a social media catchphrase or buzzword or whatever, but you really do. You see the red flags and you're like, it's okay. I can do it anyway. I can deal with that. No, it's good. Like, we'll work through that. And then you get in there and you see that it's not getting better. And you see that other people see the things that you see, but they're not going to speak on it. And you knew, right? You knew that's what it was going to be.
Before. I've done it. I completely get it.
So
I
how
hope
do
y'all
I make a
understand what she's
smart
saying.
choice?
Go ahead.
How do I make a smart choice that I don't walk into these situations where not only am I going to be burnt out, but now because I've spoken up, there are going to be folks who are mad at me.
That's right.
Because they are not uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. Everybody else is not even necessarily uncomfortable.
Oh, they fine.
They don't even necessarily see what you see. But you and listen, a lot of times you'll be proven to be right later, but it doesn't matter. You've already drained yourself so much.
The damage is done.
What is right in those situations where there are human relationships involved or where there's a goal involved, and now you're burnt out and you're not getting to the goal, and now you got to ask yourself, do I even want to stay in this, right? Do I even want to be here? All of those things, right, where we we could make smart decisions before we step into a thing, and we go in and the best intentions go awry because we didn't check ego at the door, right? And we didn't say, no, thank you for the opportunity, but not at this time, and so much of that, they would have been fine without you.
Oh, they really would have been. Oh my, listen, that for those of you guys who are just joining, this is Vocals and Vibrations. I'm your host. My special guest today is Brittany McNeil. And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Travis Pratt Official. Guys, I know you guys are ready for us. Let's have some fun, Brittany. We're gonna come back to this. This is the first time we're literally way into the show and we've not done any singing. And literally the numbers on YouTube especially are still up. This is nuts. You got to come back. They like to hear you talk. Okay, so
don't tell me that is exactly what we're talking about, right? Kill that ego. No.
The fruits of the labor. That's right. Okay, so listen. We like to play games here on Vocals and Vibrations where we throw out catchphrases and words and stuff like that, and you got to sing a song, right? And audience, guys, I need y'all to help her. Okay.
Now you guys did not come here to sing today. Why are you playing with me?
She's thinking like, what are you talking about? We didn't discuss this, and you're right, we didn't. So let's start with a word, and you sing the first song that comes to your mind, but take 5 seconds because I want to give the audience time to give you feedback. So while she's thinking about the song on love, you guys are feel free to give her a suggestion if you have one.
Oh my God,
that's an easy one, right? That's easy, love. I think so. Okay, come on, y'all. Somebody say something. Y'all don't get quiet. They want us to talk, Brittany. Where y'all at? Audience, we need a song with a song with the word love.
You switched over too fast. They weren't ready.
Listen. It was either that or we wasn't gonna sing, which I won't do. Make a decision. Okay, look, ain't nobody helping you. You got something?
Love. What are we supposed to be talking about today? We're supposed to be talking about pop culture today.
Oh, we're gonna get there. That's next.
I don't even know the Beyonce joint is the first one. Of course, Love by Kirk Franklin, which is the one that came to my mind too. And I was like, no, you can't sing that. You can't sing that.
Thomas says, what is the question? The question was a song, Thomas, with the word love. Thomas is a fabulous musician. Do you know Thomas?
I don't.
He's played for me many times. He's a genius. Stephanie says Music Soul Child, and so did Keith. And what's going on, Deese? What's up, Frat? But I mean, you can do your own if those don't work. What
Baby, it's you. That one. You're the one I love. Baby, you're the one I need. I was not ready to sing today.
You're the only one I see. Come on.
Come on, baby, it's you.
Yes.
Wow. I can actually sing. Don't do me like this. Tell the people that I can sing for real.
Oh, they know you can sing. They're gonna find out. Oh, we got the frat in here. They're talking about 06. That's right, Keith. Good to see you, brother.
That? Oh, the greatest love of all. That one?
That's right, yeah.
Of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself. That. The greatest.
Is it great?
That's a throwback.
Okay, look. Let's do another one. Hold on.
Trev, I don't have any kind of voice today. You know what I've been doing all day? Cleaning.
Listen, it's important. Okay, I got one for you.
Oh, Love Is You. That, oh man, Christina Michelle does not get enough credit for that album. That first album was
my god,
amazing.
I agree. Okay, a remix. I should have said remake. That's better than the original. Just give me a couple of lines. That's all I need. Oh, that is good. Love Is You. Oh, you're welcome, Thomas.
Oh. Oh.
Somebody said spread love. Take 6, but we off love, guys. We don't move on.
That's better.
We on a remake. That's let me put it back up. That's better than the original.
What is the
Oh my gosh, baby, you can't
what's
sing
the
on the podcast.
What's the
you gotta type it.
Joint? The Whitney Houston joint by Dolly Parton.
Oh, I Believe You and Me. I Believe You and Me.
No, that's not the one. Is it?
No, that ain't it.
That ain't it. I do love that song. I believe
that's not it.
You and me.
What's the Dolly Parton song that Whitney Houston redid? Come on, somebody. Where y'all in the comments?
I will always. Yeah.
Okay, Stephanie said it. There we go.
Sweet memories. That one. Yeah. That is all I'm taking with me. So goodbye.
Yeah.
Please, don't you cry. Yeah.
We both know. Come on. You got to get to end.
I don't.
Okay. You got to give me one more song, though.
Maybe some classical music or something.
Oh, you know what?
Warm up.
Listen. How did you get a kick out of that? What's your favorite one?
Stop.
What's your favorite one, and what's the first one you sang?
So the first one I sang was Que Fiero Costume.
Oh, Durante, yeah.
I hated that song. I hated that
I love it.
song.
Why?
I hated it.
Why did you hate it?
Probably because I couldn't sing it.
The wordiness is kind of hard to get a legato with that, right?
Yeah, but Dr. Toppin didn't care about that. She was like, I got
Make it happen.
I got things.
And what's your favorite one?
I don't think I have a favorite one.
Okay, well,
what's your favorite one?
My favorite one is, I would say, C'est tu mami.
Funny enough, I didn't learn a lot of them.
No? So which one's it? C'est tu mami? I loved
I think I learned like 2.
Violette. So you sang the Que Fiero Costume.
Now you got me. Hold on. Now you got me. What are the rest of them? What's the one that everybody sings?
Se tu lo sai. There's Alma del Core. I teach a bunch of kids, so like these songs are always fresh on.
Caro Mio Ben. That's the one. Caro Mio Ben. That's the one.
That's a beautiful one. You want to give us a line of Caro Mio Ben?
I do not. Never
you
learned.
You do not. Brenda does not play these games. She's like, I said, you want to give us a line of that? She said, I do not.
Okay. I'm not even joking though. I'm actually looking at the list. I learned.
Say
that one.
Yes,
I did learn that, and I don't even know if I sang the right words because that was
you did. Like that was beautiful.
Many years ago.
Beautiful. Okay. In closing, we got to do a nursery rhyme. We got a nursery rhyme, and then we're gonna talk pop culture, and I'm gonna let you go. I done held you hostage for almost an hour at this point.
Nursery rhyme.
Okay, V's in the background, and she says Mary had a little lamb.
And then like the itsy bitsy spider and stuff.
Oh, wait a minute, we missed all of the comments. Somebody said more of Whitney. Thomas says Ja Sole del Gange. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure that's what he meant. He didn't spell that right. Sorry, bro. Keith said Cato mio ben. Of course, he meant Caro mio ben. Thomas put Il mio bel foco. Il mio bel foco.
I do not know them.
That's quella fiamma che m'accende. Did you know that one? Al put Virgen tutto amor. That's a good one. BET to Telemundo. Oh, he's trying to be funny. Apollo, sir. He put BET to Telemundo. Is he being funny?
He is.
Oh, he mean we went from BET with the conversation and the Telemundo. That's the Spanish channel.
Yeah.
Bro, listen, you ain't no good. And first of all, this is Italian and not Spanish. Praise God. Laura put summertime. Yes, soprano. Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
I don't know what key it's in. I would do it, but I don't know what key, and I don't want to sing in the right. I don't want to sing in the wrong key.
Oh no. That's not
Because
a typical
everybody
Italian
knows
name.
the key. Yeah.
Okay, now here's being funny. He put the hell out.
I don't have a high F.
Listen, nobody does. Are you serious?
I have an E flat. I have an E flat, and then and it ends there, right? You know how usually your top note, and then you have those higher notes that you can no.
So for those of you guys who don't, the Hello Rock, that's the Queen of the Night aria for this. The Hello Rock and Coffee Mine Hersen. Right. That's
my man's gone now. Oh, y'all want Porgy?
Oh, they clowning. Somebody said Phil. Okay, no. Okay, let's focus. Let's go back to somebody said Three Blind Mice. V said Mary Helen the Lamb, and she ran upstairs because she kept talking in the middle of the broadcast. Anybody want to give me a nursery rhyme?
Please sing Summertime. I'll sing Summertime. What you got a keyboard?
It's not plugged up, and I would have
to mine isn't either. That's crazy.
Wait a minute, I might be able to do it. Oh no, that's gangster. I would have to literally get up to go plug it up. But what key is Summertime in anyway?
What
the high note is B flat. Yes, ma'am.
Fish are jumping. Woo. Oh, you really got to warm up, bro.
You really do. And the cotton is high.
Oh, your daughter is rich, and your mom is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry.
Say, Brittany. Come through.
Y'all know how nervous that just made me? I was shaking. I'm finna sing out of nowhere. That's crazy.
Listen, Stephanie Mira said it sounds like you definitely have a voice on tonight. No, Thomas said, you better scoop. What was it? It was cry, right? Cry. Is that the scoop he was talking about?
You know what's so funny about scooping? Singing, having Dr. Toppin as my first voice teacher, she did not play
no scoops.
Scooping.
Don't do it.
Did not play that. Obviously, for something like Summertime, stylistically, but when you start, you're not there. And
right.
So that's one thing that was just burned in. You better hit that note in the center of the pitch. Do not scoop into that thing.
From the beginning.
That was, oh man, she did not play.
Oh my. That's the thing about classical singing, that once you get there, you have to divorce it, because it's and when you're learning, she's right. You can't do that. And some people still don't. But if you look at the greats, Leontine scoops on everything. Everything. She changes the vowels wherever she wants to. She does literally whatever she wants to do. You know what I mean? And I guess we can say maybe she earned that. She said, thanks so much, Brittany.
Renee Fleming is gone scoop, and I'm gonna be happy about it.
Listen, and I'm here for it. I signed up for it. She sings even a Dubious Theroux. She's like, and she goes, oh, Renee, you don't care. Ain't no rules. No. I was like, what am I want to say?
And you said, maybe they've earned that right, I was actually, a few months ago, I had the privilege of interviewing Will Liverman for an article I wrote for Classical Singer magazine.
Come through. And big time.
Stop.
He
was wonderful. It was a wonderful opportunity, and we just talked like you and I are talking now. It was so amazing. I wish that I could have released the recording, but one of the things he said was that when they were doing Fire, Shut Up in My Bones at the Met, to have to be in a space like that for the first time, right? Where you have all of these Black people, and not just Black singers, but Black folks that are behind on the other side of the table, right?
That's
like
right. That's
folks who can say, no, you're not lighting their skin tone correctly, or like, no, we need to deal with the, this is kind of heavy material, like, people who could cover you. And but he talked about how they had these conversations, like with Terrence Blanchard, as they were working the piece, about how when you come into opera as a Black singer and you come from church, you're told to throw all of that stuff away. Right?
Wrong. They do.
You're
That's
told to
exactly
throw
what
it
they tell all
all
of us.
away and put
We've
it
had
all
that
to the
conversation on
side.
here.
And he said that, they were having these conversations about being free to bring all of that back into the space, right? It's welcome here. It might not be welcomed everywhere, but it is welcomed here. And all of those pieces make you the classical musician that you are, right? And I just thought, like, hearing that from him, a person who has had what we would consider in opera mainstream success, to say, I needed that in this white space, but with these Black people who have now made this space feel safer for me. Who said, you can come in here and be yourself. You can come in here and be authentic to who you are. And that actually makes your music better. And we know that, right? But it just gets drilled into us that pull it out, take all of that out of you. I remember being at conservatory and singing art songs and people being like, oh my God, the way you interpret art song is just amazing. And it was like, we grew up in church interpreting song. Like,
that's what we do.
This is what we do. These are the traditions that we are taught and they're passed down. And this is our art. Like, this is what we do, of course.
So let me help the people. So for those of you guys, if it sounds like we're speaking foreign, a lot of the people who follow the show, like, don't sing classical, but guys, we're talking about, going into a space where, there's rules and they're telling you this is what you have to do. What Brittany is saying is, bring all of you to the table. You show up with Uncle Charles and Auntie Fifi and whomever else, because those are the people who shape you, and they, we all are some of our experiences. So when you sing, whatever it is you sing, if you are a singer, and when you do whatever it is you do, you bring all of you to the table, because that's what makes you unique.
It does. All of it. My grandma was my first voice teacher, and I remember being like 3 years old and singing with my grandmother. And, we would sing spirituals, we would sing hymns, and we, whatever. And I can remember, like, her saying, no, you sing this, you got to hold your part. Right. You got to hold your part. I'm going to sing something different. You got to hold your part. My first experiences with learning what it meant to sing in harmony, and so, like, at 3, And
she's telling me, you say that, that's your no.
Exactly. And we walk into these white spaces where we are made to feel so much less than, because often we haven't had the same. Some of us have had the training. Obviously Black people are not a monolith, but like very often a lot of Black singers have not had the same kind of training. We didn't grow up taking voice lessons from 6 or 7 years old. Like we may have come to classical music later. The languages, all of those things, the stage, knowing how to operate in the context of a classical recital or concert or whatever. And we come to those things later. But what we bring, right? How we interpret song, how we hear song. I go into so many rehearsals where I go into so many environments where sight reading is prized over everything else. But you get into those environments, and a lot of folk who can sight read in isolation don't actually do very well with it in context. Whereas Black folks who really don't, a lot of Black folks who didn't have the training from a young age might not sight read music as well in isolation. And by that, I mean somebody puts a line of music in front of you and you can sing it. Sing those lines. But in context, when it actually matters, when the harmonies are around us, we are much better.
We learn by rote, and it's a tone of memory. It's through the roof.
Musical, exactly. And all of that stuff that is art, first of all, that is taught. It's just taught in a different way. That comes from our cultural experiences, that come from our music and our churches and our homes and whatever. That stuff is like, we're made to feel like it doesn't matter, but it actually really does. And it's why I've gone into so many professional classical, settings where Black folks carried We carried it, especially if it's ensemble situations, because we do very well in those situations. We pick up music fast. We're extremely musical. We hear things well. We know how to behave in context with other singers around us.
Mm-hmm.
And man, when you're programmed to think that that way of learning is wrong, that it's not as important as learning what it means to be this Western classical music style, that can do a number on you. We are all off topic here. I don't even know how we got here, but
Brittany, let's translate. I think this is helping the people. To me, I feel like in your workspace or whatever it is that you do, like I said before, you have to bring all of who you are to the table, because we're not the dominant culture in this society. A lot of times what our culture is, well, I guess that's hard to say because everybody emulates it. But the point I'm trying to make is, you show up where people are telling you this is how you do this, right? And you're throwing out everything that has led you to this point. That's why you find a lot of classical singers, and me, it's people who I went to conservatory with, who they're not into music or anything at all, because they were made to think everything that they were doing is wrong. Everything that they brought to the table, and that's your identity. And the voice is obviously the most human of all instruments, because we carry it around with us. If you're walking around, your emotions and who you are as a person is attached to it, and somebody's telling you, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong, you get to the point where you're so subconscious you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything. So what we're talking about today is literally, you bring everything to the table that you've learned. I watched these South Africans do Macbeth. It's on YouTube.
Oh, they've been killing.
Brittany, like, they got a machine gun, and then they're slaughtering. And when I tell you, it was like something else behind it. I watched the 12th Night, and Come Away, Death. It's from the 12th Night. I'm a Shakespeare fanatic. When I tell you, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is he thinking about when he's reciting his monologue? Where is his mind? To have that kind of emotion and feeling behind it. There is no way he's abandoning who he is as a person to deliver that monologue in that way. He has to be bringing who he is to the table. It wouldn't come across that way.
But I wonder, and I know, South Africa is a bit unique from the rest of the continent in that, like, this history of apartheid. Not that colonialism isn't everywhere, but I know that there's this very strong history of apartheid, which we as Americans resonated so much with because of our history and all of that. But to be in a space in South Africa, you're still in South Africa, right? What does it mean to grow up in a space where people look like you, on a continent where people look like you, where you look around and you are home, and this is home, and you have this grounding and this sense of self. So you walk into any space and you can say, I belong here. You walk into any space, and any tradition that you choose to take on, anything that you choose to do, there's a sense of self, right? There's a sense of knowing who you are. I brought up apartheid because, like, I definitely don't want to discount what that had to have meant for many generations of South African people, to be made to be so uncomfortable and to be put in such violent situations in that space. But you are still in a place that is yours.
It's still home.
Belongs to you rightfully. It is your home, and
what's happening is unnatural.
And you are connected to your bloodline. You're connected to your culture. You're connected to your history. You are connected not only to this, like, actual ground, this actual space, but you are connected to everything that comes with it. All the traditions that were able to be passed down because you haven't been ripped from your bloodline. I don't care what anybody says. The trauma that comes with being a Black American who's a descendant of slaves in these white spaces in America, it's a whole, you got to do all this finding of yourself. You're trying to find yourself. You're trying to find your history. You're trying to find your ancestors. We talk with so much pride when people are able to do the work to, like, track down their ancestors. And we don't often talk about, like, the work that goes into that, the trauma that goes into that. The fact that, like, if you want to buy a certain, like, an expensive dog, you can track that dog's history and bloodline.
Right. That's right.
And as humans, many of us cannot do that, right? Mm-hmm. So I have to be comfortable in white spaces. I have to recapture all of these things for myself before I can even walk into those spaces with enough of a sense of self to know that not only do I belong, but that everything about me belongs. My hair belongs. I went natural before. Like I didn't even have hair 6 months ago. I had shaved it off and shaved my sides and everything. But I went natural before it was popular. I went natural when like we were making stuff in our kitchens, which makes me sound way older than I am. But it was, I remember people saying, like, if I had job interviews or if I was doing concerts or something, like, what are you going to do with your hair? Like, that is less of a question now. It's still a conversation. And working in tech now, I'm seeing, you know, they're even further behind in these conversations. But I mean, sometimes I feel like we don't talk enough about the weight. We talk about these things happening, but we actually don't talk about what it does to us. And it's kind of like you said earlier, when you're a Black student in a PWI or in a conservatory space, which is, you know, also a PWI, and you spend so much time in those spaces fighting just for your sense of self, fighting just for some sense of justice, fighting just to, you know, like, now I got to fight because you won't cast Black people in an opera. Like, I got to fight that before I can even think about singing or think about my resume. And now we're off, you know, you're getting ready to graduate and you're trying to sum up everything you've done. And it's been fighting so much. I don't think we talk about that enough. Like,
no, I agree.
What it takes from you, how heavy it is. It's why I have a lot of grace for Black singers, especially, you know, in this world, who feel stagnant or who struggle to move forward, because I honestly just don't think we talk enough about what the weight is to even push through all of this stuff.
And I think we, as people who do this, we're so accustomed to it, to like it becomes the norm, and you don't realize, like, to me, as a human being, you only have so much energy. You know, and if you're dispersed and diverted into like literally 13,000 different places, how are you focusing in on it?
You're not.
How?
You're not.
Let's add other things to it. It costs. It's expensive. It's money. It's a whole bunch of other things. I mean, it's problems that, you know, outside of this, that's inevitable as well. You know, you got to pay for this shit.
I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a singer who said like this, we were talking about pay a living wage in opera and these young artist programs and like in the different things about like all of the way it costs so much money and all of these things. And, you know, a lot of folks have this mentality of like, I struggled through it, you can struggle through it too, which just, that would take us into another whole conversation. But I remember somebody saying like this fight for a living wage was a white people thing, right? Like that was their fight to take up. And it was so crazy to me because I always say anything that affects white folks is going to affect us 1,000 times more, right? So if they are fighting that fight, if these people who historically come from families who, I mean, these are facts, right? This ain't opinion. We know what wealth in America looks like. And if they are coming from families who are absolutely more likely statistically to be able to help them through whatever career path, right? Mm-hmm. We are coming from families who most often are not only not able to help us, but a lot of us come from families who have they don't even understand what we're doing. A lot of folks you
can't even call home for $200.
But it's more than that, though. It's like not even having an understanding of like
what you're trying to do.
Like, what is that even? What do opera singers do? Like, what, you know? And that's not even just a Black thing, right? That's an American cultural thing. But the point I'm making, though, is that the idea that was not our fight, because on the surface, it doesn't seem like it's directly related to race. But when we're talking about not having a living wage, if you don't have a living wage, or if things are priced in a way that it pushes people out because they can't afford it, then who suffers first? The people who do not have the resources or support to be able to take on these opportunities, mm-hmm. if they can't afford it. If you got to work full time or close to it to make sure you can pay your bills, you cannot afford to be in a young artist program that does not cover those things, because they don't leave you space to go off and work another job. You are committing to them.
It's 8 hours a day. I've done it. 100%.
Listen, I I just did, I've done theater shows. When we did Jubilee, that is not enough money for me to pay my bills. I can't speak for nobody else. I don't, that is not enough money for me to pay my bills if I was just doing that show. And it is the norm for people to be doing a show full time and
for
also
months. Say that so that people understand.
From gig to gig, taking gigs when they're not, in shows, teaching, doing part-time admin work, like all of these other things, trying to piece together a life. And it was one of the things that I was saying, and I said this when I was at the Kennedy Center this past spring, and it was another one of those situations where I was very hesitant to say it, but I said, you know what, I'm going to say it. And I talked to the producer and a couple other folks, and I said, the thing about, and I know it's not here. Another thing that makes those conversations hard is because a lot of times you're talking to people who are like, well, we're doing what everybody else is doing, because it's such a big industry thing, right? And it's such an institutional thing. But it was like, I can do this because I have this other job.
That's right.
I had colleagues who were also trying to either work remotely full-time or work part-time, stressed out, trying to get from rehearsal to this other commitment they've made, like just trying to piece a life together. Why should people who have bachelor's degrees, sometimes master's degrees, who have trained for years, who have gone through all this work, have to live that way? And it's normalized. And the thing about it is, the folks who can afford to do it most, especially in opera, because opera is so expensive. And when we say opera is expensive, because first of all, you pay before you audition. You pay to get a chance to audition. There, you don't just get to go pay your $25 in audition. No, you pay your $25 or your $50 or $100 to just submit the application. They may or may not allow you to come audition.
That's
and
right.
Keeping that money regardless.
That's right.
So then, the people who can afford to do that, the people who have parents who can give them money, the people who have parents who they can live with, those are the people who can take advantage of these opportunities that either don't pay well or cost a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. Then you get into another situation where now, for Black folks, for brown folks, for poor folks, it's taking you a lot longer to get to your destination because you're working. And while you're working and trying to work part-time or work full-time and take care of this and do that, you got teachers telling you you're not taking this career seriously enough because you're not doing enough. And you're like, I'm trying to eat every day.
Right.
Why are you not doing more auditions? Why are you not taking lessons every week? Because that would be $400, $500, $600 a month.
Plus,
everybody doesn't have that. Right. But they're looking at you like, well, if you don't pay it, you don't take this seriously. So now you
don't want it. You don't want it, Brittany.
Yeah. Who are 27, 28, 30, 32. And all of a sudden, folks are like, it's too late. You missed your window.
You
can't do it. Which is why I always tell people that ageism in opera is absolutely related to race. Because we are much more likely to be older trying to make the same headway that white singers are able to make when they're much younger. Right. So ageism is absolutely, when you see folks having these conversations about getting rid of age limits and stop asking for age limits on applications. Why do age limits matter? Why do you care how old people are? That is absolutely a Black issue. Do you know how many Black singers I know between 30 and 45 who are still trying to get their first serious opportunity? Not because they're not talented, not because they haven't worked hard, not because they don't have the degrees, but because life, right?
That's right.
If you got to work full time and you can't take a flight to now, and then we learned during the pandemic that guess what? We can make these auditions work virtually. We can make a lot of things work virtually. But now that we are free to move around, there are companies who are going back to in-person auditions. When you might have a callback, you might get a call back the next day, which means that you would either have to stay in town and pay for a hotel another night, or you got to figure out how to get right back to the place 2 days later.
Brendan, we got to tell them what that is. To tell them what a callback is. A callback is when you audition guys the first time and they want to see you again. A lot of times they're debating between you and another person, or you and 2 or 3 other people, and you have to sing again. Okay, so continue.
If you got to sing again and you live in North Carolina and
it's in New York,
if you don't have a couch to sleep on, somewhere, then you need a hotel to sleep in. So what does that cost? Like, how is this not a Black issue when we know that Black people are far less likely to have the same wealth that white people do to support these kind of things? And on top of that, we're also far less likely to have the networks that allow us to tap into benefactors and sponsors who can help us and pay for us to do these things, right?
Brittany, listen,
So like these Brown said, we make it look easy, but they don't understand the heavy grind behind. They don't. And then when people start talking about mental health issues, they say, "Oh, these millennials, these kids." First of all, millennials are not kids. Like, can we clarify that? Like, millennials are grown. Millennials have children of their own and rent and mortgages, and like we're not.
They're not 15. Get out of here.
But then it's like, oh, they're soft and they are, whatever. And I just wonder, like, why do we want to pass trauma from generation to generation?
Right.
Why can't people be soft?
I want to touch on the callback situation so people understand it even further. Guys, I was going in for this Broadway show, and literally I went to like an appointment where like your agent, you get to go right into like so there's this thing where it's like a casting call where anybody who's equity can audition. That's one thing. And there's another thing where your agent gets you into a specific appointment, right? I went in, auditioned the first time. They wanted to see me again a couple of days later. I came back. They literally saw me 6 times for this show. 6. And Brittany, I didn't book it. 6 times. And listen, it was King Kong. I don't know if y'all remember that. King Kong was on Broadway. I end up not getting cast for it, but the thing about it is I had to hire coaches and stuff like that because that music I had to learn like in a day to be prepared to sing it and all of that. And so that people understand what it is. You understand? Like literally.
Well, what about if you backtrack? Because you've already been paying for voice lessons. And if you want to have somebody play piano in your voice lesson so you can actually sing with your music, then you need to also pay for an accompanist to be in those lessons. Oh, by the way, to audition, you need to record your auditions.
That's right.
Now, we're living in a world of recorded on your iPhone, and many people are doing that, and that's fine. But a conversation we had a lot at the beginning of the pandemic when we were talking about those video auditions was even though companies are now saying it's fine to record on your iPhone, will people who are able to afford better quality recordings, audio or video, have an upper hand? They're saying
absolutely.
They won't.
Absolutely.
But is that actually true, right?
No,
so now you have to make these recordings. So you got to find somebody, a recording engineer who can record you well. And they got to be able to do it well because you can't alter the recording. So you need somebody who can record you well. As a classical singer, that means if you... somebody's got to be able to record that. You can't have feedback.
And it's got to sound like that.
It's got to sound clear. It's got to come through. You got to have somebody who understands that. So it can't just be like your boy that's got a studio down the street who's going to let you come in. And no, it can't be that, right? Because it's got to be somebody that understands the classical voice. Like all of these levels that are normalized things that, so we don't talk about them much. Like we talk about them, but not really, right? Because it's normal. It's just what you got to do. But how do you say that finances are not a Black issue? How do you say that ageism is not a Black issue when you know that these issues will affect us more than other populations of singers? You know this. Like we know this. And it's not to say, a lot of people, these conversations make them uncomfortable because it feels like you're saying Black people are less than, or we're not successful, or we don't have anything. And it's like, no, there are plenty of wealthy Black people. There are plenty of middle class and upper middle class Black people, but that's not everybody's story. And one thing that we know, one thing that we have seen is that we have a generation of Black folks who are less wealthy than their parents. So that means we're moving backwards.
Yikes.
That's facts. That's not my opinion. You can go look it up. You can go research it. We have a generation of folks who have less than their parents. And what does that mean if you look at big picture, our parents already didn't have much.
That's right.
So like all of these issues are like heightened for us. We were talking earlier about fighting every fight. Which fight do you fight? Which one do you fight? Which fight do you fight? Because all of them are affecting Black people. I've been working with AGMA for the last couple of years, and like a beautiful group of folks in the AGMA, which is the union for classical singers, for dancers, and for classical choristers.
Mm-hmm.
And it is an interesting thing. Having worked in the AGMA Black Caucus for the last couple of years with brilliant, amazing Black people who are really doing difficult work in a difficult situation. And having these conversations about what it means to be in this industry and be Black. How do we hold our union account? Because our union is supposed to be protecting us. And
That's
instead
right.
of being able to go to the union for our protection, we actually have to go to the union to teach them how to protect us, what we need. We go to the union, who just had our first census, because we were like, well, how many Black people are in the union? They have no idea. They don't know.
Wow.
Well, do you understand the needs of the Black people who are in your union? Because they're not just financial, like we're talking about actual physical safety. We're talking about people. If you heard the stories that people shared in some of these meetings that we had about like actual physical harm, especially dancers, all of these things, which battle do you fight?
That's a good question, Brittany. That's a good question. You know what? Let me say this. This is for, we're not old, but like we're not in young artist programs anymore. We're both working professionally. For people who are younger than us, and I've seen people in the comments, and I can see like who's watching on YouTube. This is what I'm going to give you guys. You hear this? This wasn't a conversation I was privy to. I wish I could have heard people talk about this so you understand what you're up against. A lot of times, you don't take it as, if it's not happening for you in the time frame in which you set it out for, or you're not achieving what it is you thought you would by the time frame or anything like that, you think, well, maybe I don't have it. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Maybe my mom and them was lying, or maybe the people at the competition was just playing, or whatever the case is. It is important to know that this. Now, and we're not saying to use this as a excuse to lose and to complain,
right?
But you need to know what you're up against so that you know how to fight.
But to know that it's a righteous fight. Because one conversation that I've been seeing recently, I think is so important, is that even within the Black classical music community, you see people saying, "Oh, you just need to get in a practice room." Y'all
Brittany, let me finish. It's people who slip through the cracks. It's people who had this exact same setup that we're talking about, and they become mega stars, right? And not a lot of them, but there are some. So that then almost invalidates everything to people. Well, how did they do it? You understand what I'm saying? And that's what people think. Oh, if this is the case, and if you're marginalized in this way, and this is what you got going on, and we're not invalidating the fight. We're saying know what you're up against, make an informed decision, and make a decision that you're going to do it no matter what. But like, if you know what it is, because a lot of times, a lot of people, these kind of conversations are not even on the forefront of your mind. You're not even thinking about this. It's normal to not have the money to do it.
It's normal.
It's normal. You don't even realize that you're fighting a fight by yourself. That other people aren't having to think about that. You're so used to it because this is how you grew up. It's not it's socialization. It's normal for you because this is the environment in which you grew up in. So you're not even thinking, well, how the hell am I supposed to pay this application fee? Then I got to fly here. Then I got to do this. You don't even think. You think, oh, well, other people didn't. You see people who made it, and you think,
so I got to figure it out too.
That's it.
But you don't even realize that it's actually predatory. It's absolutely predatory. How the hell is it okay for somebody to charge an application fee that you do not get back if they don't allow you to come sing?
And they take it from thousands of people.
And then it goes to support the 5 people they chose, right? Or whatever other initiatives they have, or the salaries of the folks on board, or whatever the case may be, right? And this is not just like companies. This is competitions. This is, training programs. Those programs where they tell you, oh, if you pay and you come sing, and there'll be agents here to hear you. And so you pay and you go fly out. And then
we've done it. I've done them.
So then you internalize all that, right? Because it must be me. It's got to be me. If that person was able to make it and they're singing in A houses or even B or houses, and or they got a contract here, they're doing that. It's gotta be you, right? It's gotta be that you.
I clearly didn't have it. I'm not as good as I thought I was.
You weren't talented enough. You didn't have it, right? And so then you hear the folks who have platforms who should be saying, hey, I am the exception and not the rule, and I want to make this better.
I will close this computer. You are right.
And instead, they're saying, y'all complaining and you don't even have careers. How dare you?
Do you have a high C? Is your voice lined up?
And it's like the reason people don't have careers is because of the things that they are complaining about. Let it be known that you are famous because you caught a break. That don't mean you didn't work hard.
That's right.
That don't mean that you didn't have talent. But there are 100, 1,000 other. One of the things this pandemic did show me and open me up to was that, like, I always knew that there were Black opera singers that I didn't know, but my God, I had no idea how many of us are out there. And that is also why this fight is so hard. And I wish I had said this. I wish we could, because what I'm about to say is we are so isolated. We are often one of two. We're often the only one, or maybe one of 2, 3 folks in any given space. And so we are so isolated that we fight these fights and these battles, and we internalize all of this stuff thinking it's just us, with no idea that there are hundreds or thousands of other Black folks going through the same stuff. But we're so isolated and we don't know. 2020 came around, folks start gathering virtually, and I was like, oh my God, like all of these singers that I do not know. I never even heard of. For how long? I never heard their names. They've gone to this school and that school. They've had some shows here and there, and maybe they're not singing at the Met, but they've been grinding in this thing for a long time. I didn't even know who they were, because while I was over there at Peabody struggling and fighting, they were up there at this school or at that place fighting the same battles, being told the same things, going through the same stuff. And then all of us are made to feel like we're crazy. Brittany. Because the gaslighting is on 10,000. And it's worse. And it hurts worse. Because honestly, like, this is me speaking just for me. None of this stuff for me when I do DEI work is about, I don't appeal to white people's hearts. That's not what this work is about for me. It's not a heart.
Tell them what DEI is.
Because for me, it's about policies. I'm here to deal with policies and procedures. I'm not here just to change one mind. I am here to get you to write a thing down. So, because if I change your mind, even if I am successful in changing your mind, when you're gone, it's gone. Mm-hmm. That person whose mind you changed, that heart that you think you changed, which you may or may not have, if you do not change policies and procedures,
and it's not written down,
culture, it doesn't matter, because folks are in and out and in and out. The shift has to be something that is lasting, so that it outlasts people, so that it changes culture, right? But we are so isolated in all of these different spaces, not even knowing that each other exists, much less knowing that folks are going through the same struggle, that we are made to feel like we're crazy. We are made to feel like we're troublemakers. We are made to feel like we just aren't working hard enough.
Listen, let's break this down, guys. Like, make it church. A lot of times, like, I feel like people say, oh, the devil will get you in isolation and make you think whatever your insecurity is, it's aggrandized, and it's like it's larger than life, and you think you're the only person going through this. You're the only one. And if you're in the corner and you're not going to say anything about it, that means you can't call help. You can't call a Brittany or somebody who's been through this that can give you the insight, that can shorten the learning curve for you. If you're silent about it, you understand what I'm saying? So
but then what happens if you speak up and now you got to figure out, is it worth speaking up? Are they going to?
That's true. I agree with that. I agree with that. But what I want to say is, find somebody who you can say something to. You understand what I'm saying? You have to, because you anything, and this goes beyond, like, Brittany and I are both artists, so obviously that's what's important to us. One of the things that's important to us, but anything to me, I think any struggle, anything that you're going through in life, you will feel like it's you and it's isolated. You're the only one and you're struggling and you're getting beat up. And the thing about it is that thing can box you in the corner and literally beat the crap out of you. And you need to be able to say, Will, D, Stephanie, Alfonso, Lasagna, Leroy, this is what's happening. You got to say it to somebody, and they can then tell you, oh, that's interesting that you say that. I went through this at this part of my life, and this is what I did. It then shortens the learning curve. Nobody, I say this all the time, life is built on relationships. Very few people got to where they are based on their own merit. You meet somebody who likes you, who can
very few.
Brittany, very few.
No matter how much they try to convince you that they have, no matter how much they try to convince you that it was their work, their hard work and their talent, and they did all of those things, I do not care. You still need the stars to align for that thing to work. That is why so many folks that are in successful positions cannot teach others how to get where they are. Because very often you caught a break somewhere.
But say that. If that's what it is, say it.
But no, because there's too much ego.
And you need to feel like you did it. And you need to look like you did it. That's ego.
Listen, I'm a technical recruiter, right? So, which is already like a mind-blowing thing, right? Because I fight a battle every day. Every day of like not living in the past. Because every day I'm like, but you could have been doing this 10 years ago. If you would have been doing this 10 years ago, that 401k would look like, that savings account would look like that kind of thing, right? But I hire folks every day who are making $100,000, $200,000. And it's so crazy to be in those spaces, and I'm seeing their materials come in, right? So I'm reading resumes, which often are like poorly formatted Word docs and like barely, you know, I am calling people. I'm setting up interviews. Folks miss them. You know what happens when they miss them? We call them back. You missed your interview. You know, would you like to reschedule? Why? Because my job is to find the talent, to find the people who can do the job. But I'm also a part of Black professional spaces in tech. And it's so crazy to see Black people in those spaces with what we call imposter syndrome. And that's fine for it to have a name, but it's actually systemic racism is what it is. But, you know, okay. And to see these people in these Black tech spaces who are spending hundreds of dollars for career coaches, for resume revisions, who are getting swindled, sometimes by other Black folks, spending hundreds, sometimes over $1,000 for executive reviews to try to do things. And I'll have a white man come and submit a resume that he literally just typed up with barely formatted it in Word, and he submitted it, and it's listing what he's done and where he's worked, and he's going to get the interview. And we are out here convincing ourselves that like we have to spend all of this money, or we need all of this extra training, or like we weren't in the right spaces, or am I presenting myself well? Can I wear my hair this way to the interview? Like all of these different things. And at the end of the day, I see firsthand that folks who don't look like us are not fighting this battle. I see it because I hire them every day. So as a recruiter, my job, well, I don't have to do this, but I find creative ways of sourcing candidates. So I'm always looking for affinity groups, identity groups, all of these spaces where I can go find the folks who might not pop up in my LinkedIn search when I'm searching for people, right? I'm looking for cultural groups. I'm looking for anywhere I can go where I can find folks. And it is that same thing that you were just talking about, right? Where a lot of times folks are looking for advice, they're looking for mentors, they're looking for help, and somebody is telling them, oh, you can't just come into tech. You got to put the work in. You got to, and I cut all that at the neck. First of all, you got to love it. It's got to be your day and night. And it's like, it doesn't, because nobody has to love labor. I don't have to love labor.
Oh my God.
I don't.
Right.
I don't love working. Why would I? I do it because I live in this society, because capitalism, because I got to eat, because I got to pay my bills.
And it costs.
Period. And so I every chance I get, I tell people I have 2 careers. And really, it was the pandemic that kind of made me settle in tech, because my thought was all it takes is one variant that this vaccine does not cover, and we all isolated again and looking crazy. I will never. I was like, I don't want to be in a position again where my whole livelihood is wiped away because we're at home. Now we got monkeypox. Like, it's always something. The world seems so, you know, it's not the world is really not any more uncertain than it has ever been. But whatever we're going through always seems like the worst thing, right? And so I tell people all the time, like, this is a means to an end. This is not a thing where you got to wrap up your worth and your value and your identity. But what you do have to do is find pathways. I have an amazing mentor in tech, and I was very lucky to have an amazing mentor. But this mentor even told me when I was leaving the company where we worked together and going out to find another job, and the company was not paying me what I wanted, and they extended my contract, and I was supposed to come on full time, and they didn't convert me, right? But they extended my contract. So I said, okay. Then the next time, when that deadline came that we agreed on, where I'm supposed to convert, and they said, we want to extend your contract again, because they wanted the labor, they wanted the work.
Of course.
But they wanted to, and I said no, and they were shocked. They were shocked. And I was like, no, I'm good. Thanks. And I walked away. And my mentor said, well, you might have to take a job that pays, this amount or pays that. And I was like, I will not. I said, because I might be relatively new to tech, but I'm not new to working. Okay. I said, I have degrees. I have not only degrees in music, but even if I did only have degrees in music, I want to be clear to if there is a musician still listening, even if you only have degrees in music, you have transferable skills.
You're still smart.
You have transferable skills. You have been out here curating shows. You have been out here hiring people. You have been out here dealing with your own finances. You have been out here doing program management work. You have to know how to name your skills. And I told my mentor, she said, so how candid do I want to be? I like to talk candidly about money and about everything else, because I make over $100,000 for the first time in my life. That's because of tech. That's not because of music. And do you know, even being in a situation to be stable in that way, I still had to validate myself. I still felt like, but I was supposed to do it through music.
That's funny. I got to six figures without music too.
I was supposed to do it through my career. I know I can sing, and I can sing opera, and I can sing theater, and I've done work in gospel, and I've done BGVs here, and I've done this, and I've done studio work. I can do all these things. I was supposed to do it through music.
That's right.
Bro, you're stable, and you're okay. And I had to, and I still battle that, right? I still battle that. Like, it wasn't supposed to come this way. And so even in doing that, my mentor said, you might have to take this job. It paid, I think it was like $50,000, something like that. And I was like, first of all, that won't pay my bills. So like, I live in Baltimore, that's not going to pay I'm not going to live paycheck to paycheck. If I got to do something that I didn't intend to do in the first place, I'm not going to be miserable. I mean, I'm not miserable in my job. I actually like it, but I'm not going to do this thing, right? That was not my plan, so to speak, and also not make the money I want to make. I tell my friends that all the time. If you're going to take a day, a 9 to 5, whatever that looks like, it doesn't have to literally be a 9 to 5, but anything that's not your art, and it's not feeding your soul, it's not the thing you really want to spend your day doing, make it valuable.
Oh, you need to get paid.
I'm gonna get paid. Andy
Brittany,
said,
period.
Andy, I didn't even know you were in here, girl.
No, listen, CJ said
it won't go away.
He said, you see that? That's the benediction. May the Lord watch.
Seriously. And I had to tell her, and she had far more years of experience than me, obviously, and she's a wonderful mentor and was so helpful to me. And I said, I'm not taking that. I know that I'm worth more than that. I was like, I know that the skills that I offer are worth more than that. You know. You and I have had this conversation. You know that the skills that I offer are more than that. I'm in here revamping trainings. I'm in here talking about DEI. I'm in here working on projects, working with we had a venture capitalist firm that was working with our company. I'm doing projects with them. Like, you know what I bring to the table. You know it's worth more than that. And I'm not going to take this full-time job and be trying to do my art and maybe have to supplement that with something else to live. I'm not doing that.
Brittany, we got to talk about knowing your worth. Like, somebody just said it. That's right, Reed Lasagna. She said, know your worth. I think it is of paramount importance for you to talk about, what it took for you to walk away from that, because often we get in situations where we have to pay our bills or we take what's less. But what I've learned is the universe will match you where you are. God will match you where you are. If you don't feel worthy of it, you ain't going nowhere. Ever.
You're not.
Ever. You will never get there.
It's
No,
not
what I
even
want, I
like,
want you to speak on, Brittany. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I want you to
no,
speak
you're
on
fine.
what it took for you to be like, I'm worth more than that. I'm not doing it. Mary had a little lamb.
Fleece was white.
Listen, and snow. Okay. What did it take for you to be able to say that? And what do we want to give to the audience on how to do that? Because to me,
It's
that's the
scary.
biggest thing.
It's scary, right? First of all,
course.
one of the things that I haven't so this is a work in progress for me, because it's, here we go again, like, girl, you don't have to try to save everybody, but I really have been thinking about what does it look like for me to create a resource for people to learn how to name their skills, right? Because Black people do a lot of stuff, and you know, I don't know, I only saw one person on this thread that actually knows me in real life, but I'm always going to be talking to I'm always talking to Black people. If somebody else hears it and they benefit from it, that's wonderful. But me, I'm always talking to us. I have learned and I have seen that we do so many things that we don't know how to name.
That's right.
Right? So we have all of these skills that we're actually doing. Folks might work as an administrative assistant for 10 years in the same space and have all of these things they can do that are actually what a project manager is doing, but they don't know that and they don't know how to name it. So
that's
that
a
is
different
the
pay
first.
grade.
It's a whole, this a baby. That's a different pay grade. That's a different pay grade. Even HR, right? So let's take what I do. I'll take what I do. You can go work in HR somewhere and work in HR for 5-7 years, right? And be making 50, 60,000. Please try again. Sorry, I don't know, my phone started talking to me. And start making and be making 50, 60, 65,000, right? Which in some parts of the country would give you
that would be fine.
Decent living. You could work also in HR, in talent acquisition, in DEI, in people relations, employee relations, in people development, all of these different spaces where there are different little names for the stuff you might be doing, all for your 65,000, and you could be making $115,000, $125,000.
That's right.
As a senior technical recruiter, you could be making $120,000, right? And you're talking 5 years. So when my mentor was telling me, oh, take this money, I know, I don't know what you made. I didn't know what she was making, but I knew how much a job paid that she had just turned down because it wasn't the right environment for her. And it was about $130,000 that she turned down. So that said to me, if she turned that down,
if she turned down 130,
she might not be making it, but she's close, right?
For me, she got to be making it.
So, I mean, there are folks who will say, "Is the environment what I want? Is this, is it worth the transit? Whatever, right?" So I was like, "You have more experience in this field than me, but I know what's on my resume. I know the work I've done. I took everything that I've done. I went to job descriptions and different websites to look at what technical recruiters do. And I used that language to write out everything that I've done. So whether it was in the arts, whether it was working for myself, it didn't matter. I used their language to write out what I had done.
Write the description for, I get it.
Name your skills. So you asked me, how did I know? How was I confident enough to turn it down? Well, first of all, I had come through this whole pandemic and been sustained, right? I was like, I'm still eating. I had blown through a lot of my savings, I'll be honest, but I was eating every day. I was paying my bills. I was making it work. I was able to find virtual gigs at first, and then stuff opened up a little more. I was doing technical recruiting, but not at the salary that I wanted. But I was making it work. I was piecing it together. And I was like, I know I have skills. I know I have abilities. I was writing as well. I will make it work. Like, I'm not going to stay in this place and not be paid what I know I'm supposed to be paid. And I'm also working full time, but I'm not getting all of the things that come with that because I'm on contract here and I'm not, whatever. When I turned it down, they were surprised. We were on camera, we were virtual, and I saw the look on the head of HR's face and she said, "Are you sure?"
I'm sure.
And she was just like, do you really want to do that? I do.
Period.
It's okay. I do. And when I started the job search and I wrote a cover letter, which a lot of folks feel like are outdated. And they may be, but I wrote my cover letter as a narrative. And that is one thing my mentor said to me. She said, tell your story. Like, don't write the same stuff that's on your resume. Who are you? What have you done? So my cover letter to be a technical recruiter was actually about being an opera singer, because I'm telling you that I'm naming my skills. I am tying in my experiences from being an opera singer. I, as an opera singer, know a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of things. How do I relate that to this thing that I want to do? So I tell my story. I get interviews. Every time I go through interview processes, as long as it's not a white male, I'm always advanced. The only time I am ever not advanced in any interview process is if it's a white male. I know my skills. I name my skills. I'm cool. I'm pushing through. I get an offer and I tell my mentor, I'm not taking this. It was a job that had commission. Maybe you should just take it. It's your first, after you leave here, no, I'm good. I get another offer. And I felt a way about it, but didn't we already talk about how we see red flags?
We did. We talked about it.
I take the job anyway. I see red flags, but the interview process is okay. But like the job itself and just some things about it were, but I give a verbal acceptance. After I give the verbal acceptance, I say to the recruiter, listen, as you know, I'm an opera singer. Obviously, this is my first priority, but I want to know what the day-to-day looks like of this job so I know how to, balance the rest of my life. Her whole tone changes. Her whole demeanor changes. She's very short with me. She's cutting me off when I'm asking questions. She's talking down to me. That's all I needed. Wrote them a letter. Thank you, but no thank you. Explained everything. Sent it to every recruiter that I had met through the process. I said, if this is how you treat me during this process, then how are the people who are supposed to bring me in and train me going to treat me with respect? Also, I'm working in this field and working virtually because I don't want to be tethered to a 9-to-5, like I'm an adult, whatever. But I say it, of course, more professionally with all the nice big words and all the things. They write me back. They say, oh, wait, can we talk about it? I said, no, I already said at the end of the letter that I didn't want to discuss it. I turned it down. I tell my family, I turned it down. You turned it down? I turned it down. You didn't take that job? I didn't take that job. What you gonna do? I'll be fine. The next day, I get a phone call. Hey, do you remember us? You interviewed for this job? Absolutely. We want to offer you this position. Not only do I get the job, but I say to the recruiter immediately, I said, listen, I'm just going to be 100% candid with you, 100% honest. I just turned down a job yesterday. And I turned down that job because I didn't like the work-life balance, but I also did not like the way I was talked to. And as a recruiter, I talk a lot about DEI in my processes because that's a selling point for the job. If I know about DEI, that is helpful to the company. So I can sell it in that way. So I said, as you know, DEI is very important to me. How we treat people, putting people first is very important. And this is what, I just turned down a job because I wasn't treated that way. And also because I didn't like the work-life balance. I am an artist. I don't intend to stop doing that. So I need to know, how does this fit? I don't care as long as you do your job.
Wow.
And they lived up to that. And that's why I told
you. The lesson in that is you've got to know, though. Like, because I think the majority of the population will be afraid. It's like, I got to pay these bills. And you let.
And I do. I got a whole kid.
No, what I'm saying is like everybody has responsibilities, but you let the weight of that override what's obvious. For those of you guys who just joining us, this is Focus on Vibrations. I'm your host, Travis Pratt. You can catch me at Travis Pratt Official at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. Okay. Basically, what she's saying is, you've got to know your value. You got to believe in you, because if you don't, you're always going to settle for something different. Anybody other than Brittany almost would have took that job. You understand what I'm saying? And you'd have been in that for another year, making far less than what you were supposed to. And you can't let something that doesn't fit take the space of what's supposed to be there.
We do have options. Somebody said in the comments, we absolutely do. But it's kind of like that thing that you were saying a while ago about singers, when all these things start to run in your head about DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in different fields, it's called different things. You might see DI, you might see D and I, but it's always or you might see EDI, but it's always some version of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when you can work those things, which, to be honest, a lot of Black people know more about these things than we. You got to name your skills. You
That's
probably, if you are Black, have already been voluntarily doing DEI work, whether or not you knew it.
Because they come ask you.
They ask you to do it. They ask you to join the task force or the committee or the whatever. And you've already been doing this work. Have you been on a task force for equity or for culture or identity or something like that at your job or at your school? You've already been doing DEI work. You've already been helping with these policies. And so in tech and in recruiting especially, because just like in opera, the number, it is skewed heavily towards white people. And then in tech, it is skewed heavily towards white men. And so companies are looking for diverse talent, in part because now it looks good. Let's be honest, right? In part because now it looks good to be able to say that you have a diverse workforce, but also because we've seen the numbers that show, we've seen stats that show that there is more and better productivity. Companies do better when they have people from different backgrounds. Imagine that. When you don't have a homogenous workforce, people might bring in new ideas and be thoughtful about things. And imagine that, like, wow. And so for me, I know it's easy to say, like, know your worth. That is very easy when you're not the one that has to pay somebody's rent. Like, if they know that, if they say, I'm gonna know my worth, then I'm gonna turn this down, and and then it doesn't work out for them, and they don't get the phone call the next day, who's going to pay their bills, right? For me, it was like I had to know that walking through the wrong door keeps me from the hallway that's going to lead me to the door I'm supposed to go into. I cannot be distracted any longer by opportunities that are not for me and that I know are not for me.
It's a waste of time and space.
It becomes a distraction. Because now I'm in this place, and now I'm looking at my resume, and I'm saying, well, I started this job, and I don't want to leave too soon because either I'm going to look like I'm a job hopper or I'm going to have a gap on my resume. But also, let me tell you, I don't care what field you work in. Do not let people lie to you and tell you that you have to stay in a job for this long or for that long or whatever else, because the best way for you to make more money is to move. If you have been in a job for more than 5 years, there is a great chance that you are underpaid. I did not come on here to talk about recruiting, but here we are. So let me just say that. I don't care what field you are in. If you have been there more than 5 years, you are probably underpaid. You need to go interview. You need to get your resume up and go out and see what else is out there. These jobs are not marriages. You are not committed for life. They are not committed to you. Know that.
They will move on from you.
The fiscal year for some companies just ended on June 30th, because for some companies and institutions or whatever, June 30th is the end of quarter 4 as opposed to December. And let me tell you that I saw the layoffs that happened at many companies, but also people that I know personally who got notified the morning they were being laid off, that it was their last day.
Wow.
When these companies decide that it fits their bottom line to get rid of you, they will get rid of you. They do not care how great you are. You will have built an entire team and made yourself obsolete. And they will say, you brought us the people to do what we need to do. At less than we're paying you, goodbye, you can go. And I know, when I tell you, I know personally folks who on June 30th found out that it was their last day of work. No heads up. No, nothing. So this idea of loyalty, I believe in doing a good job in any space that I am in. If I choose to be there, I'm going to do the best I can do. But this idea of loyalty in these spaces, no. And this idea that I have to be so loyal to my art. If I take another job, I must not love my art. I must not. You know what I love? I love the way my savings account looks right now.
Say that.
I love that I can actually plan for retirement. Because if I want to sing till I'm 80, and hopefully if I can keep this voice together, I can. But if I don't want to be having to work at 80.
That's right.
I love that if I want to go on vacation tomorrow, I can. I love that I'm in a space where I can actually use my gifts and talents, right? Like what I do, I'm actually good at, and I help people, right? I literally go out of my way to do diverse recruiting, which thankfully is a good part of my job, and it's something that I will actually be, rewarded for in one way or another. But I go out of my way to do good through what I do. If I could sing full time and know for sure that I'm secure and whatever, would I do it? Sure. Absolutely. Do I love my voice, my art, my work any less because I choose to be in a job where I know that I am secure, where I know that my family is taken care of, where I know that I'm planning for my future, and where I know that if I am called for a call back in New York tomorrow, I can book a flight tonight and go.
Brittany, it takes off the stress. Like, for me, and Andy's on here. She and I talked about this a whole lot. For me now, I'm financially at a place where my confidence in walking in the room is different, because it's almost like, if y'all don't hire me, guess what? Okay, I don't care. I'm good. I wanted it. I definitely wanted to sing it. I definitely wanted to do whatever it was. But to me, you walk in completely different if your life isn't on the line. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I've taken jobs.
I don't have to take it.
I've taken jobs where I didn't believe in what the production was about. I've taken jobs where I hated what I had to portray. I've had to act roles that I don't agree with personally. But I got me, and I got that pretty wife of mine. I got to pay. Yes. It costs.
Yes. And talking about money is so uncomfortable for people. Andy's on here. Andy will tell you, even back in 2019, when the three of us were in that production together, and I went to Andy and I was like, so I don't know if they paying y'all what they paying me, because I just got here. I want to tell you what they paying me, and I'm not trying to be in your business, but and she was like, no, they paying you what they paying us.
That's what
and I was like, oh.
She laughing. Okay. She put LOL.
And here's it. And the funny thing about that is, what we were being paid for the industry and
it's good. It's good. 100%. It's Lord B.
Hey, right?
100%.
It is good money.
Healthcare.
I have seen contracts on Playbill for a third of that.
Me too.
And I was like, oh, okay. Because, Trav, that production, one of the things I loved about that production was that it was a theater production with a kind of classical, twist side to it. But there were people from different worlds. So there were folks from straight theater who did mostly acting. There were people from musical theater, and there were people from opera. And we were all coming from these different worlds. And so I thought, well, I haven't done really musical theater professionally. So maybe I don't know how it works. And maybe since I just got here and I got this contract late, I didn't get the same contract they got. And when I found out I had the same contract y'all had, I was like,
oh, this is a joke.
We supposed to live like this?
Right.
This is how we supposed to, we gonna eat? How I got, and then it's gas money and stuff, and then, oh man.
And for those of us, half of us flew in from New York. And for those of you guys who don't know how this works, we flew in from New York, and it's they did have housing for us, but and it was great, but housing, you still got to pay rent at home.
But local singers did not get housing.
That's what I wanted you to say.
And local in the DMV is very relative, because you might be doing a show in DC, but your cast and crew may be coming from Baltimore, Falls Church, Reston,
Norfolk. It varies.
Whatever, right? They're coming in. If you don't live far enough away where they feel they're going to pay for you to have housing, you got to drive in every day.
That's right.
So Andy said something to me on that contract, because we had to pay for parking every day. And I was like, this is a mess. Now I got to pay for parking out of this. I got to pay for gas out of this. I got to pay for food out of this. I didn't have a per diem. And so she was like, next time you get that all in your contract. So when I went to the Kennedy Center this year and I got a contract and I looked at it and I was like, and again, the rate for the area was a good rate. So I'm not knocking them. It ain't, this is institutionalized. And I said to myself, girl, you got a full-time job. Fine. Like, just take the little contract, take the money. It is what it is. But I got in there, and then all of a sudden, them gas prices went up, and it was costing me over $50 to fill up my Nissan Sentra.
Oh, that's not
And
okay.
I was like, I drive a Sentra. It's a 2018. I know, like, it ain't in bad shape. It's been sitting still for 2 years, like the
For 2
pandemic.
years.
I ain't been moving it. The car's in good shape. It's guzzling this gas up. And I had to go to the producer, and I was like, listen, I'm coming from Baltimore. My commute, for anybody who doesn't know this area.
Honda said, take the little contract.
For anybody who doesn't know this area, Ani said, take the little contract. That I didn't mean it like that.
No, we get it.
I want that to come out the wrong way.
Oh, no, we get it.
If you don't know the area, like, traffic in this area is a nightmare.
Oh my God.
And one of the things that makes it a nightmare is that it is very unpredictable. So from where I live in Baltimore, depending on the time of day and just any small thing that's happening, it could be like they put one of those little messages up on those digital road signs.
Right.
And that could slow everything down for miles, right? Because people are reading it. Anything can happen. And all of a sudden, a commute that should be an hour is an hour and a half, right?
Easily.
Or at peak time
Brittany.
of day, it could take me from where I live an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours to get to the Kennedy Center. Easy, right? Because once you get down near DC, and that's not even in, the traffic is a nightmare. Then once you get in DC, it just becomes...
Slit your wrist. I know.
You want to die. Like, yeah, it's so crazy.
For sure.
And so with that, the mileage, the gas, and the time spent, and now gas is over $5 a gallon in DC. I was like, so I had to actually go back even after signing a contract, which is even harder to do because you've
harder
already
to negotiate. You signed it,
and I had to go back and say, listen. So the thing is, I live in Baltimore, and I know I agree to that. Right. So I started there. I know what I agreed to. I know where I live, and I agreed to come here anyway. However, things have changed considerably almost overnight. And I was candid. I said, even though I am in a position where I can afford to do this, it kind of makes it not worth it for me as an artist. And I got to have some standard, right? Financially, I got to have some kind of standard.
You do.
Because I'm already traveling, which means I'm eating out a lot more.
Oh,
because I don't have time
to go home and cook. Right.
I don't have time to cook every day. And because in theater, you are working 6 days a week. You
That's
have
right.
Monday to yourself to do every single thing. Wash your clothes, run your errands,
prep your food.
If you have children and a family, you better take care of everything you got to take care of on that day, because the other 6 days a week you are in the theater. And once the shows start, you are doing 7 to 9 shows a week.
A week. Nobody gets that.
And so I was like, I can't, it doesn't even make sense for me financially to do this. We go back to knowing your worth, right? It wasn't that I needed the money. It was just that now I'm at a point where the money that I'm going to spend in gas and on food is going to end up eating this check. Like, so much of this check, I'm not going to see too much of a difference. And to be quite honest with you, now that I'm not making that commute and spending all that money on food and all of that stuff, like, I'm not making that money anymore, but I'm not seeing a huge difference in my finances.
Right.
Because I was spending so much money on gas and food, and eating out adds up. It adds up. And so to me, I had to say, I need a per diem. I need you to add to this contract. I know that it wasn't included, and I know what I agreed to, but for me to continue, this needs to happen, and here's why. And I also said to him, I know that this is not just a thing with this venue. So please don't think that I'm saying like I put it all on
this house
institution.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, in the institution of theater and this world and this field, this is not a living wage. I cannot afford to live in DC on what the Kennedy Center pays for you to work in theater or Arena Stage or whatever else. I could not afford to just do that even at full time. Let's say that you booked shows 52 weeks of the year. And that doesn't even make sense, right? Because who was working 6 days a week, 52 weeks of the year?
I've come
But
pretty
let's say
close.
that you did that at one of those houses. It's still, for most people, unless you have a really big name and you've negotiated something, far out of what the standard is per the unions, that is not a living wage to live in this area. Like,
Right.
you have to supplement it with something else. So for me, it was like, it was a risk, because I was in that space of like, I had come out of the pandemic. I had come out of all the stuff, Travis, that you and I talked about earlier, right? Of knowing when to speak, knowing when to hold it, knowing that you don't have to fight every battle, knowing that you don't have to, save every person and be the hero or the martyr or whatever it may be. And so I found myself back in that space of like, do I speak or do I not? And as a Black woman, it's even harder, because everything that we say gets taken in a different way than we say it. Oh, she got an attitude. Oh, she's stand, whatever. And so I had to make a choice. Like, do I speak up? And I saw a comment earlier from CJ that said, what were you standing in to be steadfast in your decision to decline the job offer? And that was for the tech job that I declined. And it was the same thing that I was standing in when I had to go and renegotiate my contract for this show. I was like, if I'm going to show up in this space, I am not going to be miserable coming here because I'm being undervalued. I'm not going to do that anymore. I've put in enough. And honestly, like, I know there is some merit to the idea of paying your dues, but I have paid mine in many different ways, but I actually do not believe that you should have to pay your dues to make
I don't either. I don't either, Brittany.
Treated with respect.
That's a bunch of crap.
Not only did I renegotiate my contract, but see, I'm not secretive, and I know a lot of people are. I'm not secretive about stuff. I want everybody to win. And I went to my colleague who is younger than me and who was doing what I think might have been her first professional show, one of her first professional shows, because she had just graduated college, like during the pandemic. And she was also commuting from not too far where I am. And I said, listen, I want to tell you that I went and renegotiated and I asked for X, Y, and Z. So I'm telling you that I did. I don't care if you tell them that I told you. I don't care if you don't tell them that I told you. But I want you to know this. I want you to know that it is an option. Because I know that financially, I'm in a much better position than she is.
Of course.
And she is making this commute and she is spending this gas money, and she had a part-time job at another theater institution, and she was trying to balance all this stuff, and she's a young woman. And I was like, so I just want to tell you that I've negotiated this, because they're not going to tell her. They're not going to go to her and say, hey, we've done this for Brittany. We can do this for you too. So I told her, and I was like, does that guarantee that they're going to do it for her? Absolutely not. But I wanted her to know, this is what I've done, and this is what you can do if your pockets are hurting, because things have changed a lot from when we signed this contract.
Oh, that's good. Someone said Brittany wants everybody to win. No, that's huge, because like that speaks to to who you are as a person. You're not out for yourself. You want everybody to win, and that's much like my personality. We're both Virgos. For me, I'm gonna tell it. I am going to tell what happened. Okay, look.
You gotta love to learn that part of yourself, right?
I used to let people make me feel bad about it, but it's like me in my old age, I'm telling, and I love what you said, and my wife can attest to this, and anybody who knows me, Andy, we've been friends for years. Dean has known me since undergraduate school. I don't care if you say Travis said it.
I don't either. So I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything that can't be repeated.
That part, exactly.
Right.
Because you're not worried about just you. Because that young lady, whomever she is, and I don't know what happened with her, but even if she didn't have the courage at that time, the fact that you told her that you did it, at some point she's going to think about it. At some point she will stop and start to say, no. And
now,
this is crazy.
5 years ago, I might have gone in there, asked for that for myself, and said, and you need to do this for everybody, because it is the just and equitable thing to do.
Right.
That's where I had to just, that's where you have those moments where you have to be like, so how much of a battle am I going to fight? Right. Like, how many doors am I trying to knock down? And how much do I want to try to build and preserve relationships first so that I can fight bigger fights later?
That's right.
So what my downtime in 2020 and all that self-reflection that I was doing made me realize is that, like, you will still have to fight some battles, but in not fighting every battle, now there's a line, right? There's a limit. So I don't have to go knock down the door and be like, but y'all know this ain't right.
Right.
I don't have to do that. And obviously, I mean, I am not code switching in this space. I tell people now, like, you got to pay me to code switch. I'm just not. I don't have
the energy. I'm just not. I don't do it. I don't do it. I get that from my wife, who you know very well. Oh, she don't care. She's not. She's gonna be. And to me, that is the most attractive thing ever. She don't care who it is, what it is. This is who it is, and it's like, what you got? Take it or leave it. And I'm
right.
Clearly unbothered.
And so the way I speak to you candidly here, obviously in situations that are professional, it might be a little different, right? Because some of, this is a different conversation, but some of
but it's not a code switch. It's appropriateness, right?
That's exactly where I was going. Some of the things that we call code switching actually aren't code switching. It is knowing how to act in different situations. And that's all, right? Like, because even this, like, the way I might talk to you on the phone is different than the way I might talk to you for your audience.
That's right.
So it's that kind of thing. And so, even in the past and going in those situations and going in and professionally and using all your SAT words and blah, 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 like, even in that, I've reeled some of that in, right? Because fighting every battle will drain you. It'll kill you. And I literally saw a thread in an HR group that I'm in about real things that happened when people died at their jobs. And you see people joke about, child, they'll have that job posted the next day. But it's more than that. I saw, and somebody made a comment and they said, someone died. One of my coworkers died at work, had a heart attack, died at work. And I watched my supervisor get on their computer and click off so that they wouldn't still be getting their hours.
Wow.
So when I say in any of these spaces that we navigate, when we're just trying to build a life for ourselves, knowing how to draw lines and have boundaries, because we are not valued enough to be killing ourselves for any of this stuff.
That's right.
For any of it.
This blinded loyalty for what?
Why?
For what?
Why? Because it's been ingrained in us, because capitalism, right?
That's right.
Which is why when you hear somebody say they don't want to work, automatically what comes to mind? Lazy.
They're lazy.
Right? You're poor character. Da 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 da. And I am very strong and loud and proud in saying I do not want to labor. I don't have a dream job. Art obviously feeds me in a way that nothing else does. I want to sing. If I could sing all the time, that is a dream, in a way. But as far as like having to do art to make money, I don't have a dream job because I don't dream of working. Like my dreams are the way I dream and envision the world, not just for myself, for other people, are not all of us having jobs that work us to death,
Oh my God. Okay, look, Brandon, I want to take one more question. And hey, Joy, good to see you, Juanita. It's been a minute. We need to catch up. I want to take one more question, and I want you to give us closing remarks. Like, literally, this is the longest show of the season. The people are not logging off. You hear me? Okay, look, and it's CJ again. He says, how do you know the difference between being light or creating chaos in that truth? What tool or what was done to discern? That's brilliant.
A good question.
Listen, he saved tonight.
That is a good question.
It is.
So
I'll let you take that, and then I want you to give us closing remarks.
I think where you start, first of all, is examining the issue. Like, is this actually an issue? Getting all the information, knowing who's involved. One thing that I actually haven't said tonight that I want to make sure I say is that I have fought so many people, so many battles for folks who would not fight for themselves. And the battle wasn't even for me. It was for them. And then they wouldn't even fight. So then when the ish hit the fan, I was taking the hits.
That's right.
In their battle.
Your career is at stake. You are facing. I'm sorry for cutting you off. That's great.
No, go, please.
No, it's true. It's like, and then you're in the limelight to take the darts.
Yes.
When you're protecting somebody else who's hiding, and even when you speak up, they still won't say nothing.
They won't say anything. And even when I talked earlier about being in a space in 2020 when I was harmed, all the people who are in leadership in that space now came back to me this year and said, can you come back? Will you come back? We need you. Will you come back? And I said, but I was harmed in this space. I was put in a position, and I shared this with you all, and you did not stand up for me. You did not fight for me.
You said nothing.
You did not even apologize.
I told you that.
How do you have the audacity
to come ask me to come get hit again?
Because when folks come for me again, will you stand with me? Will you stand for me? You didn't do it the first time. So like, why are you asking me to come back? And it was like, you know what? You're right. Not like, you know what? We sorry. Can we address this so that we can resolve? You know, it wasn't that. And although I had already known that my decision to walk away was the right decision, you get reminders.
That's right.
Thank God for mentors. Thank God for having a voice teacher who, you know, is grounded in this career and who was like, you too smart, you're too talented, you have too much to do to be staying in these spaces where there's chaos. So remove yourself and take care of yourself. And so the first thing I think when you're trying to figure out, like, am I giving, where's it? I lost the question.
I got to put it back up.
Between being light or creating chaos, I think, first of all, you got to find out, is there already chaos?
That's good.
Because what is that saying? Like, if you argue with a fool,
they don't know who the difference. They don't know who's the fool. Exactly. Right.
It's that kind of thing. And one of the reasons that I've walked away from certain situations in the last few years is because I knew even if I fought a righteous battle, it would not matter, because the only thing that would happen publicly would be that my name was attached to the fight. It wouldn't matter who was right or wrong, because not enough people care about. Here's a kicker. Not enough folk care as much as me about the right and the wrong of a thing. I had to realize that, and does that make me better than anybody else? Or that's not what it's about. It's just recognizing that having a heightened sense of justice will make me put myself in situations
in the line of fire.
Exactly. Where folks who don't have that same heightened sense of justice will not care about whether I was right or wrong, because all they see is the fire and the chaos. So the first question is there already chaos? And if there is already chaos, and there might be, right? Because that may be why you feel compelled or you being asked to come in. Is there a commitment by whoever's asking you to come in, or by whoever you would be serving by volunteering to come in, to a plan to work through it?
That's right.
Whatever vision that you have for it is your vision. It's just yours. So you got to first find out, does your vision align with whoever else has the power or the position to deal with this situation? If it doesn't, you're just going to go in and be trying to force your vision on people who will then resent you for what you think is being helpful.
The people who ask you to serve, the people who you serve will also resent you. Oh, that's powerful.
And it might not always be intentional, although I do believe it's important to recognize when it is, when people will put you out to save themselves, when people will leave you in the line of fire to save yourselves, that happens. But also, it may not be completely intentional. It doesn't matter, though, because the outcome is the same. You're going to lose. And it's not always, sometimes it's about reputation. Sometimes it's about time and energy. Sometimes it's literally about your sanity and your mental health. And so like, you got to know, are those folks that I will have to work through this with committed to a similar vision as what I have in mind? You got to know that before you go in.
That's right.
If you feel like that may be the case, right? Then you need to know, well, what is the plan? What is how did we get here, and how do we intend to move forward? And you need to know how much power, and power is a strong word, but you really need to know how much power you have to actually make change.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes folks actually want you to come in so that it looks like work is being done, but they actually have no intention of
doing anything.
So now you are all in your feelings and your ideas, and you are taking your time and your resources, putting yourself out there to fix a thing they never intended to fix, and then you look crazy or you feel crazy. Right. You really have to, you really can only be light in a place where people are not committed to darkness.
That's right. Committed to darkness. I think this is a good place where Leroy, thank you so much for saying that. He says, Trav, you must have Brittany on here again. So Brittany, this is actually the last show of season 2. And so the reunion shows are going to start next week, and it's like a couple of like weeks where all the guests come back and people get to ask you questions and all the good stuff. So let me go ahead and put you on the spot and actually come back in front of everybody.
Of course. We literally did not talk at all about the thing.
Nothing. I got notes, everything, nothing happened. But this is what obviously needed to happen. This is what the people needed. So I mean, look, let's go with it. I've learned, one of my good friends is in here. I've learned to adjust with what it is. I mean, I wanted to talk about this, but this is obviously what was needed. And like I said, like literally the YouTube crew is on blast. It's like it's and none of them are leaving. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what they wanted to hear. So let's rock with it. Give us closing words before we go. Say it again.
Kudos to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Creating this platform, for doing this, for having this space.
Brittany's my new therapist. Shit, mine too.
But no, seriously, because we don't have a lot of spaces where we can be honest.
For sure.
Like there, since the beginning of the pandemic, there are plenty of Black virtual spaces. There's an abundance of that. But spaces where we can be candid, where we can be honest, where we can get to a thing. I'm telling y'all my business and stuff, like my salary and stuff, you know.
Listen, and that's we're kindred spirits in that. I'm the same way, because I guess it's a heightened sense of justice, but that can be a positive or negative thing. I think too far to the right can be harming, and like I said, it's something it's an equilibrium that has to be balanced, because I'm the exact same way. It's hard for me to pretend and try to do and be something else. And when I tell you at the end of it, I'm exhausted. Like holding back what I have to say.
And people don't understand that, right? They're like, why you always got to say something? And it's like, because it's harder for me not to.
Listen, I leave in like in theater spaces and work and stuff like that. Y'all think I want to come in and be controversial because I like to argue? It's not that.
I would love to be at peace. I would actually love to come in and sing beautifully and have
and
that's it. Say, goodness, she's a wonderful artist, and
she's a great singer, and that's it. I can't help myself. I'm like, and the thing about it, but what has balanced me is like Elvira, because she's worse. She's almost like she ain't holding nobody up. She don't agree. You finna hear it.
Listen, I'll tell you this one last thing. I was in a meeting this past week at my tech job, and my team was talking. I did not have to say a word. My team is talking. I wasn't even on camera. Okay. I was like, I'm off camera today. And they are, talking about diversity. Right. And so the conversation became about like, how do we diversify our hiring pipeline, getting more diverse candidates in the pipeline? And there was a lot of conversation about like, well, it's not because we don't want to. And it's, we'd like to, but we found out the problem's not really with it. And it, all these things. Right. And I was like, Log off, Brittany. Log off. Just let them finish. Say have a great day and log off. And what did I do? Unmute.
Couldn't help it.
So I think all of these are. I was like, I think all of these are wonderful things to reflect on. I just want to. I really want us to think about when we talk about creating a diverse pipeline, what unconscious bias, and now I'm teaching folks about unconscious bias. And now I'm having this conversation about what it really means to diversify a pipeline and what it really means. And if we diversify the pipeline and if we force candidates on, even if we do get people through, are we bringing them into an environment that is going to kill their souls? And I said, I do not want to bring diverse candidates into this environment if they are not going to be comfortable here and they are going to be miserable. We cannot, as recruiters, have that on us, that we do everything we can to get our numbers and we bring people in here
at their detriment. So
now we're having this conversation and I hear, Brittany, I'd like to add you to the meeting with blah, 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 global. And I was like,
you done signed up for some stuff.
Why did I do that? Why did
I wasn't trying to do it?
And I literally called my friend. I said, I could have just been quiet. I did not have, nobody asked me anything. I could have been quiet. Like, why did I do that? He was like, because you had to do that.
That's right.
Because you needed to do that, because it needs to be done. There is work to be done. And I'm like, he was like, this is why you're a recruiter. And I was like, I didn't have to, though. I didn't have to. I don't want to be in the global leader in the meeting, and I don't want to.
I'm not trying to do none of that.
These people let me do my work and go. If I need to be in an 8-hour rehearsal during the day, they're fine with that. Like, they let me just come do my job. So I'm not adding to my plate, but it's what you said, right? For us and for people like us, I really think that balance means a different thing than it means for some other people. And I want to clarify that, like, when we're talking about different types of people, it's not that one is better than the other, right? No, it's just that you have to recognize who you are, so that if you feel different or isolated, that you don't feel bad about it. And then when you start to do the self-reflection and check the ego, you really can learn how to be your best self. This is who I am. It's who I've been called to be. So how do I do that in a way that is actually helpful when I intend to be helpful? Not harmful when I intend to be helpful. For me, balance, people who compromise on things that are unjust and things like that grind my gears. I have to check myself to even continue to have empathy when I see folks make compromises in situations where they know things are harmful, but they're like, so for me, balance is the opposite of that. Balance is what is right, what is good, what is just, is where balance falls for me. Balance does not, for me, fall on, I will lean to this side or that side of the political spectrum for compromise or the social issues or whatever, so that I can make people feel good, or so that we can have some common ground. The common ground for me is always in what is just and what is right. Now, how we get to that, we can have differing ideas about that. But like, we should not have differing ideas about what is just and what is righteous, right?
That's right.
We may feel differently about how to get to those things. And so what I learned is, like, how I feel about balance. Balance means a different thing to other people, because for some people, balance really means just being in the middle of these two opposing ideas. That's not what it means to me. That's not what it means to me. And so you got to just learn yourself and start to kind of grow in that, whoever you are. We didn't talk a lot about, like, people who are in these tough situations and they don't know how to speak up, or they don't know how to fight, and they're unsure how to fight.
That's for the reunion show. We're gonna tackle that.
Yeah, it's so much, right? That at the end of the day, my final word would be,
that's what I wanted. The final word. Let us have it.
Giving yourself grace, because we shouldn't have to be fighting these battles in the first place. And so if you are truly doing the best you can, you deserve some grace for navigating these situations you shouldn't even be in the best you can.
Wow. Oh, that is powerful. Guys, on that note, this is Vocals and Vibrations. I'm your host, Travis Pratt. I can be found on all social media outlets, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Travis Pratt Official. I got to put that up. She said, wow, that is exactly how I feel. Because you shouldn't even be there in the first place. And the fact that you are, you have got to give yourself grace for how you're able to maneuver in any way that you're doing it. Guys, I will see you guys next week. Same place, same time, 7 o'clock. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will see you guys next week on Sunday at 7 o'clock. Powerful Brittany, absolutely. Like, listen, let her have Brittany, I gotta put your stuff back up here because hold on. This is where you can find it. Brittany's on Facebook as well.
I'm on Facebook. It's just my name. Yep.
It's just her full name. You can on Facebook or Instagram. You guys go and follow her today and all that good stuff. And like I said, she will be back for the reunion show. I've got to coordinate with her schedule when we're going to do that. Thank you guys for joining us and for staying the whole time.
It is dark outside.
I watched it change, Brittany. Literally 2 hours and 30 minutes. And on that note, have a good night. I'm going to call you tomorrow, okay? I'll see you guys later. Guys, see you next week. All right.